This is Movies, a podcast about the act of cinema. With me today is Hans. What are those, new
Right.
headphones?
No, it's the same ones that you guys thought were Puerto Rican earrings, remember?
That's right. Oh, yeah.
Because they hang off my ears. Yeah.
We got Rosie Perez on the show tonight as guest.
Let me see my nipples. Oh, you can't. Sorry.
And we also have Spencer from Death Curse Comics. How are you doing tonight, sir?
What's going on? I'm good. Thank you for having me on tonight.
Absolutely. It's good to do a one-off show after we had our crossover on Army of the Dead a while back, two-parter. That was a real fun time getting into that movie.
Yeah,
And
that was wacky.
it's that's one I'm still meaning to revisit. Like maybe I'll have a higher opinion of it now that I know it's just a piece of shit. That seems to be the case with a lot of horror movies is people once they get used to the fact it's not what they wanted or maybe it's not even that good, then they can start to accept the characteristics of it and then gradually, build a tolerance to it. I think that will happen with the movie that I want to get into right away, Halloween Kills, which people hate this fucking movie. A lot of Halloween. I'm friends with plenty of Halloween fans from the literary community and podcasting community, and anybody who's
Jesus
a
Christ.
Halloween purist, say for our buddy Jake the cinematologist, it seems like Hans has a cockroach flying around his bedroom.
There's a cat asking for dick just outside.
Oh,
You know,
no.
when they just go, when they're
Just
just
a
walking
neighborhood
around.
cat.
They're just walking around, just going, wow. Just like, can you fucking go?
Dude, I'm at my mom's house right now. She's got 9 cats, and about 4 of them are
Holy shit.
females. And every time I visit, that just so happens to be the time one or two will be in heat. And if one is in heat, then another is in heat, and it sets off the cycle, and they don't
They all
shut the
sync
fuck
up.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's annoying and it's
Sorry,
disgusting.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
The point I was getting at was, save for Jake the cinematologist, he's the only Halloween purist that I've talked to, that I've seen anyway, that does not have a strong disdain for this movie, Halloween Kills by David Gordon Green.
Can you be a Halloween purist when there's so many bad ones?
Yes.
When
Well,
most of them are bad.
I think on average, if you compare, and Spencer, I want to get your take on this too. If you can compare like the big horror icons, the slasher icons, the Halloween series probably has the most overall quality. Maybe. I mean, look, maybe Nightmare on Elm Street, but there's also a lot of not so great ones in there too. I think they're all very watchable. I can't say that about Halloween. Curse of
Mhm.
Michael Myers and Halloween 5
Yeah.
I are really hard to get through. Halloween, the original Rob Zombie Halloween, I also think is not that easy to get through. So I don't know, Spencer.
How do
What do
you
you
like
think?
the second one of those?
Uh, it's fine. I think there's interesting things about it. It's not really my cup of tea. I actually, even though I was just taking a jab at the first one, I actually think I prefer the first one as a better piece of quality media, even if it's
Yeah.
not my favorite.
Because I rewatched both of those for this. I've seen Halloween Kills an obscene amount of times at this point. I talked with you a little bit in DMs. I was like, I feel like every time I watch the movie, like I am like changed on one part, and then on
Mhm.
another part, I'm like, God damn, I hate this.
Yeah.
And I was so torn, but overall, I enjoyed it. I don't think I'm as much of a purist as Jake is from what I've seen him talking about it. I sort of fall off with Halloween. I'm more of like a Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street kind of guy when it comes to slashers, and then like the one-off stuff like the burning and shit like that. But
Oh, the burning's good.
Michael Myers has always been the interesting one because it's kind of that like at least in the original one, it's what you don't see. There's not a lot of blood or anything like that. I think you see blood on him as a kid for the most part. And it's kind of like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre route from there. It sort of lets your mind fill in the gaps and everything. But he is one of the ones where like somehow with Michael Myers, no matter how bad his movies ever were, like the fan base, if they're like in love with Michael Myers, they would just support it. Like no matter how bad the movies got, they kept showing up for it. And I think that this like reboot run is sort of a testament to all of that. Is I think Blumhouse sort of saw it as like surefire money, especially being able to get John Carpenter and Nick Castle on board and all these guys for all the big fan servicey cameos and things that I know a lot of like super fans go nuts for. There's like the whole Fangoria crowd where you can do no wrong. So as long as it's like the right licensed IP, they're like, holy shit, this is perfect. And that's, I think, the crowd that's like praising it right now, that 50%. The other half is kind of like shitting all over it. And there's a lot of diehards like really confused. I'm kind of in this weird middle though. I almost don't remember the question you asked me, but yeah, like it's such a conflicting movie for me, and I'm a diehard slasher fan.
I like that my feelings about it are not like okay, so I've watched it twice thus far. And the first time I I was expecting more the 2018 one, which is a pretty solid, straightforward, and serious horror sequel that has maybe like one or two bits of comedy that focused on, I believe, Artie from Pete and Pete, all grown up. He was the
Yeah, that
husband
was
of Judy Greer or somebody in the film, right?
yeah, Karen, I
Shit,
think
was
is
that
her
Art?
name.
Yes, that was
Laurie's
Artie.
daughter.
I was like, this guy's familiar. Where do I know him? And I knew him
Yeah,
as Artie.
strongest man in the world, man. I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is going on?
He says something. He says something about a penis at the dinner table. That's what I
Yeah,
remember.
I got peanut butter on my penis.
Right. That's like the one David Gordon Green, Danny McBride bit of humor in the movie. And then
Ugh.
you watch this. So it felt like David Gordon Green and Danny McBride said, "We're gonna do what should have been the sequel to Halloween, that original Halloween." And then Blumhouse was like, "You want to do two more?" And they said, "Yeah, we'll do two more, but it's going to be our Halloween now. It's not going to be Halloween. It's going to be our version of that." Which this is not the first time they've done something like that. If you take a look at the series Eastbound and Down, the first three, that third season of Eastbound and Down was supposed to be the final season. It was labeled the final season. It ends perfectly. But HBO wanted one more. And HBO threw money at them and said, "Can you do one more season? And then we'll let you have another show. And that can be self contained." And they said, "Yes, we will do that." And then the fourth season is nuts. It's crazy. The main supporting character, Stevie's got plastic surgery and blue eyes, and Kenny Powers is a big celebrity again. And he's famous for being like racist on Sports Center or something. And it gets so insane and over the top and wild. And it's like, all right, I understand the MO of these guys where if they're doing it for the money and they have that freedom, then they're just going to go crazy with it. And they're going to do
Yeah.
the most fun version of that. And that's what this feels like. This feels like a Halloween themed episode of Righteous Gemstones or Vice Principals, something like that. And the ending gets insane. It gets crazy. And I kind of love it. It gets very Brian De Palma with the shots as well. There's like a higher level of visual artistry to this movie and also visual laziness where some of the shots are not very thought out, and I can clearly tell they're doing like a fake zoom effect in Avid or Final Cut Pro or whatever they're doing. And then there's other shots that are so just strange for any slasher film, at least, that I can't help but appreciate it. So I think there's plenty of good and bad to this, but it's certainly a memorable outing in the Halloween franchise, and I think they were probably smart to do these two back to back Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends, which comes out next year, which I don't even know how they can really do that. It has to take it to the most extreme level, you would think.
Body count alone, if you're going off of like the slasher rules of, every sequel needs to up the last one. I think I think it's just shy of 40 people dead by
Oh
the
my
end of it.
god.
Yeah.
I think
So
it's literally going to be like a Godzilla film, Halloween
if
Ends.
if you count that final scene without getting like too far ahead, there's like I think about 20 people. And basically that moment essentially doubles the body count of the entire movie in like the last 5 minutes of the movie. And I'm like rewatching the movie, taking notes, and was like, oh, the body count's not that far off from like a lot of Friday the 13th movies and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh shit, yeah, there's the ending of the movie where it just turns full tilt. And it's like up there with the insanity of the opening of like, what was it, Jason Goes to Hell, where the cops just like light Jason up in the
Oh,
first
yeah.
5 minutes of the movie and just like blow him apart with guns. The ending just goes like completely off the deep end. But Yeah, like body count alone, they're gonna be really pressed to like up the ante. Like I don't really know. I guess kill 80 people next time around, like
Yeah.
nuke the city at the end or something. I have some ideas of what they're gonna do, but
He's he's going to hell with Jason.
yeah,
They're
they're
going to
gonna
be
blow him to
Jason in
pieces
hell.
in the first 5 minutes. He's gonna turn into an ass worm.
Yeah, I actually think that if this wasn't connected to the last one, I might have enjoyed it better. I thought the weakest part of the story, well, besides the survivors, who's what's this the guy, the blonde guy that Tommy Doyle is
The
badass all
best
of a sudden.
character of the entire
Oh
George
my
Zimmerman. He
god.
plays. He's just a
Yeah.
hero. He's
He's the
trying to
most
save the
campy
town.
character in the movie. Yeah.
I
He's
love all these terrible delivery canned lines of everyone's entitled to one good scare. What the original sheriff from the '78
Oh,
Halloween says.
Brackett.
He can't act anymore. Anthony Michael Hall is not trying at all. It seems like he's just saying, "Evil
I
Anthony
like when
Michael
dies
the
Hall's
tonight."
just
He's
there in
swinging
a
with his
sweater.
bat.
I like when the kid goes, Tommy's organizing groups of people that care to catch him. It's like, oh, so just a bunch of old people are just gonna go at him and catch him, and then when they're driving, he pops up and they're surprised, even though they're looking for him. I was
I
like,
need a
what
few
the
good
fuck?
people, not a few good men. Even though it's all men at the gas station. There's not a single woman in sight. He looks around and like pauses on the delivery of that line and goes, "People, we're looking
Like,
for a serial murderer."
and I don't know if their performance was worse or better than both Jamie Lee Curtis and what's her name, Judy Greer, who were both awful. Just at least to me, their reactions to everything and how overly exaggerated everything was from their performance. Well, Judy Greer was kind of boring
She's
until the
almost the
end.
most grounded character in the movie, like because she plays it so straight.
Yeah, and then Jamie Lee Curtis just acting tough and trying to get out of the hospital with a gash in her belly and just like overreacting at everything. And I was like, what like the tone between this one and the last one, it feels very what's the second Star Wars movie from that last trilogy, The Last Jedi,
Ooh,
is it?
yeah, no, that's a very good
Where
comparison to make. This is definitely the last Jedi of the Halloween series.
where
Oh
you
man,
set something up on the first one, then the second one is like, well, let's just do
Who
whatever
gives
the
a
fuck we
shit?
want. Who
Yeah,
cares?
whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Who cares? But yeah, the one thing I liked is that a lot of the deaths are very creative, and a couple
Mm.
of them were kind of unexpected. But yeah, it goes crazy. That scene that felt like a zombie invasion at the hospital, with them trying to get the wrong Michael, who looks nothing like Michael, not even size
No.
wise. He's
the
like way
retard witch hunt.
smaller. Yeah, it's like way smaller, and everyone's just like, let's get him. That was very comical. Now that you mentioned that, I think if I had seen it through the eyes, I forgot that Danny McBride and co-wrote this. So maybe if I had seen it as like, the TV shows that they do where the tone is more comedic than serious, even though they're tackling kind of serious things sometimes, I might have enjoyed it a little bit better. I was just kind of confused as to what they were trying to do with it. But I've
Yeah,
only seen it once.
that
Yeah.
first go around, I was kind of just breezing through it. I wasn't fully. It didn't fully hold my attention, and then little things would pop up. I'd be like, "Huh? What? What? Like the Big John, Little John thing?" I was like,
Oh my
"This
Yeah.
is a real part of the movie. Why is this taking up so
Uh,
much time in the movie? This is a third of the movie. These two."
Just
how
a
about
cheap
when
gay
the
joke for the C plot.
Constant cheap gay jokes from Stewart of Mad TV and the bad guy from the Righteous Gemstones.
Yeah.
Oh,
How
okay,
about
that's who he's
when they
from.
bring in the old sheriff and what's her name? The daughter, Natalie, I think it is.
Mhm.
And she sees them. He's like, oh, he's coming, and the paramedic is like, internal bleeding, lacerations, but he's gonna make it. It's like, why are you saying this in the middle of the hallway so that she can hear you? It's like, what the fuck is this? But yeah, I didn't hate it, but again, I started because I've seen all the Halloween movies, but my memory, like some of them just like blend with each other, and I don't remember which one is exactly. But I don't understand the outrage about this movie, as if the rest of them were just on uh just you can't copy them, or it's like a work of art that shouldn't be touched. When if you look at the original series before Rob Zombie, at least personally, I like maybe three, maybe four out of those. The first one, the second one is fine. I like the third one, even though it's not good. And I know that LowRes has been critical about the all of a sudden love that everyone has for the
Well,
third one.
I was the first guy to ever say Halloween 3 is the best Halloween. Fuck the Michael Myers movies. Halloween 3 Season of the
Okay.
Witch, that's the real
Whoa.
one. I've
Season
always
of the
been
Witch
on
is
that
good.
train. I still watch it every Halloween. I'll probably watch it this Halloween. However, I don't like, listen, maybe this is just the snob in me. Maybe this is the hipster who's ahead of the curve, fashion forward. But I don't like now, this is everyone's favorite Halloween movie. I just checked my YouTube feed. James Rolfe released a video only 2 days ago saying Halloween 3 is super underrated. No shit. We've been saying that for 10 years. We've been saying that for 7 years. Shout Factory put it out on Blu-ray. I picked it up. I saw it in theaters. Listen, everyone wants to pretend like this is their new favorite just because they're kind of bored of everything else or what. It's a fun horror movie. It's a great horror movie. It's one of the best Halloween films, but it just feels very forced that this is suddenly now like the thing. That's all I'm saying. Uh, I think it's definitely the soy choice of favorite for Halloween
It's the cool
movies.
kids Halloween.
Yeah.
So actually, you know
Well,
what
I
the new
like.
Halloween 3 is Halloween 4. There's a small niche community that's like, actually,
Oh
Halloween
no.
4 is great. Halloween 4 is underrated. Halloween 4 is terrific. And Halloween 4 is not even a bad one. I don't have any real strong opinion about it. I remember I had very few on VHS, and I believe I had Halloween and Halloween 4 and maybe Halloween 2 and H2O, and that was it for a while. And it's a watchable slasher film, but it doesn't have the same character that Halloween Season of the Witch has, in my opinion.
That's when they try to make him like the little girl is like a vessel for him, right? At the end.
Kind
And
of.
then
Oh yes,
Loomis
and they don't
tries to
set it
kill
up.
her, and then yeah, and then in the next movie they completely abandon that. Yeah,
Of course.
I hated that. I like the first three, and I like the Buster Rhymes one. I think that movie
Oh
is
hell yeah, that one is
hilarious.
actually legitimately underrated and
It's
fun.
Is that was that like Resurrection or something?
Resurrection,
yeah, that
Yeah.
shit
Isn't
is
that
so
like
funny.
a reality TV show
Yep,
or something they're
Dangertainment.
shooting in the Myers house?
That's right.
yeah,
Like a
it's
haunting
so
show? Yeah, that one was so
It's
funny.
weird.
the
Whoops
perfect
Michael
sequel
Myers'
to
ass with karate.
H2O. You end with a
Yeah,
decapitation. Jamie Lee Curtis's character finally gets closure, and then Dangertainment LLC starts up, and Buster Rhymes has to have a TV show. So we got to bring Michael back somehow, and we're gonna have a shoehorned story in the mental ward that's just thrown in there. That actually Michael put his own mask on a paramedic,
Yeah.
and he was reaching out not as like you're my sister, but help me. My vocal cords have been crushed, and she killed a man and went insane.
Always framing those first responders. I thought we were going to honestly see like a nod to something like that in this one. I wouldn't be surprised if they just leave the next one open ended like that. I don't imagine like if these just keep making tons of money that they're going to stop making them. Maybe David Gordon Green and Danny McBride will walk and go do their own thing again, but if Blumhouse is making tons of money, they're not really the studio that stops making sequels on
Right.
anything.
uh,
No,
So,
of course not. I know David Gordon Green is actually in production on, I think it's the Hellraiser remake television series, not the
oh
one with
yeah,
the female Pinhead. There's two things going at once, and he's involved with the HBO show.
they're doing a bunch of stuff. I'm pretty sure they're already involved trying to figure out the Jason rights. The only thing that'd be good about that is I think they're trying to sort of be like a mediary and do like what they did with Halloween and bring a bunch of people who hate each other back together to make another installment, because as it is right now Victor Miller owns like the original Friday the 13th stuff, but Sean Cunningham owns like the concept of adult Jason, but Cunningham can't use the Friday the 13th name anymore. So if we're ever going to see like another Friday the 13th with big Jason running around killing people, it'd probably just be called Jason, or Blumhouse will figure out some way to reconcile all their differences with a bunch of fucking money. But
Is
yeah,
that why?
they're
Is that why Jason X is called Jason X and Jason Goes to Hell is called Jason Goes to Hell?
I believe that was him like covering his ass and like establishing like without a doubt, even if they got screwed. Because I mean, this court stuff, Vic has been trying to go after it for a really long time, and then Obama established that law before he was out of office, where after like 35 years, you could try and get your properties back depending on the contracting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's one of those things. This movie is so campy and weird and all over the place, and it's like you said, like if you go into it expecting that first one they did in 2018, it's such a complete 180 from what they did. And then like looking back at it now after watching this one so many times, because I watched the first one when it came out quite a few times too, but it was definitely spaced out over a longer period of time. Just I've been working in my office all week, so I just kept like playing this movie on loop and picking it apart. But uh if you were
You okay?
expecting the 2018 one, it's one of the fucking craziest things ever. Yeah, I've
I'm
rotted my
sorry.
brain,
Why?
Hans.
Why?
Like
I
I
mean,
said, I'm a big slasher fan, and there was so many expectations that like the first time I watched it, I really hated it. I was like, what the fuck is going on? And I'm the first guy, like I say it on our channel all the time, like I love stupid schlocky horror shit. So like something like this, if it wasn't the second installment and I wasn't
right.
expecting like an actual, like LowRes said, like a really like well thought out like movie. Like it wasn't just trying to be like, oh, we're a new Halloween movie. They tried to make a good movie that stood on its own legs and just happened to have Michael Myers in it. And there's like even a couple of things I didn't really like about the first one, but it's still like it looks good, it's still entertaining, and it feels very close to the original one without just being like a one-to-one like recreation of the original like a lot of reboots are. So it's like they kind of played it safe and still had some surprises in it. This one, if the first one was like this one and they just came out of the gate crazy like this, I would have been like all for it day one. Uh, the biggest stuff that confuses me with this is it like includes and alludes to Halloween 2, which was redacted in the 2018 one, but is mentioned quite a few times in this one. So now it's like it's gotten into this weird area where they're kind of like, well, we know it's going to make money no matter what, so we don't really care about keeping the like timeline and continuity too tight anymore.
What are you
Because
referring to? Because I guess that went over my head because I'm not as well versed on the Halloween series. But what's
the
the
nurse
Halloween 2 tie?
slap flashback isn't actually from the first one, it's from the second one.
Huh.
Uh yeah, and there's a couple other parts that they mention. So the only way my brain could make sense of it was that essentially parts of the second one happened from the way they talk about it. Like say Michael Myers went to the hospital, but then at some point during the night he went back to the Myers home. You know, after him and Laurie fought and everything, she went to the hospital, he went after her, and then he returned home again. And I think the cop flashback at the beginning of this one is showing when he came home that second time and like from the hospital. And like
Oh,
instead
right.
of getting blown up by Loomis in the hospital in Halloween 2, the original ones, he just came home and ended up getting fucked up by the cops. Like Loomis loses track of him because obviously when Loomis shows up in this one in the flashback, he's not all burnt up from the end of Halloween 2 or anything
Right.
like that. So I
It
think they
also
kind of
wasn't
included.
Loomis, right? It was like the Irishman Loomis.
No, well,
No,
hold on.
they,
No, that was a
yeah,
prosthetic. That was
Oh, was it?
maybe
yep.
similar to what we've been using. That
What?
well, you don't know what we've
Yeah,
been
I'm
using yet.
curious to see that. I
Uh,
remember you
but
mentioning that a while ago.
that was all entirely practical effects.
So
Yeah,
that's why it wasn't on camera for very long. It
That's
was
why they
just like
kept
a
him in the
couple of,
background, out of
just like
focus.
he
yeah.
said
He's
something and then cut out. Yeah.
always in like the corner of the frame, and that's where like LowRes was mentioning before that weird like I don't know if it's like Adobe Premiere like post rendering zoom or whatever. That's what made me think on the first watch that that was just like you said, like a digital rotoscoping of the character. Was they do that weird zoom in on the kid from Project X, young Hawkins. They like zoom in on him with that like artificial zoom, and then they do it like in reverse at Loomis down the stairs, and it like the lighting seems all weird with it, almost like the like I don't know if it's like the visual codec or what on whatever they rendered it with is just like sort of pixelating in a weird way. So he
Yeah.
looks sharper than everything around him in the
Yeah.
scene. And it's like that, like when like CGI effects fuck up the black point on something and it doesn't look like it's like sitting in the same field. And that's
Totally.
I was like, what the fuck is going on with this? And then like the third time I was watching it, I was like, I need to look this up. And the first thing I found was they showed the actor. The guy actually looks like a famous like stock photo actor who's been in like meme photos
Yeah,
and
you're
shit.
right.
Like,
Yeah, he definitely does not look like a real actor. He looks like if you went to shutterstock.com and typed in old bald man, he would probably come up on the first page. But like the actual prosthetic of it looked pretty good. It looked pretty on point
yeah,
with Donald Pleasance's likeness.
it's the hair, and they nail that in the lighting, and there's definitely like some post touch up. I think that's where like the glossiness comes from. There's some of that in, at least I think there is, in the scene where Michael exits the burning house at the beginning too, and there's like the water dripping down in front of him. Some of the water looks like it's like practical and it's actually there, and then it looks like somebody went in and retouched some of the water because there's like a second layer you can see. And that was all the shit where I was like, it just felt unnecessary. The narrative hand holding is what I didn't really like about it, and I think that's what I'm still like torn about. Is there's so much like, I guess, expositionary dialogue is the best way to describe it, where and it's like, if it were one person, like it makes sense if it's Laurie or Hawkins or someone who's been around since the beginning, sort of like catching everybody up on it, which is why I thought Tommy was going to be that guy when he introduces the story. But they split it up amongst the entire town, and just everyone is like a fucking old bard at a campfire or something. Just
Yeah,
like
no, you know what
everyone
it
has a
felt like?
fucking story to tell.
It had a vibe to it where it was like maybe they felt like it was 20 minutes too short or something, and they leaned into the clip show factor of it, where you get like, oh, it's a little bit of Halloween, and here's Halloween
That
2018, and
that introduction at the bar felt really uncomfortable and weird. That, yeah, this is something they do every year, and here's this person that was a victim, and this other person that was a victim, and this other one. It's like we
Yeah.
know. It's like,
And
do you need to
it's
tell
what,
us every year?
30, 40 years later, and they like
Yeah,
they there's like a slight line that slips in that they do this shit like every year. I was like,
yeah.
the only thing I like about that is that plays into how I've always seen the Halloween movies. Is like, I like the not explaining things too much. That's why I don't really like the Rob Zombie ones, but I enjoy them as just like watching them as popcorn flick slasher movies. But that weird like the theme to me has always been this like strange obsession, and how it like anyone can fall into this like obsessive pattern. And like Michael Myers is just like an animalistic obsession. He doesn't know why, he just goes around killing. Laurie gets obsessed over time throughout the original series, and is just sort of like, whether it's reluctant or not, she's pulled into the gravity of this man in this whole situation. And Loomis is just like off the fucking deep end, wants to kill this guy, and is like his own like obsession that he's manifested himself over time. So it's like all these different shades of obsession. And then we finally got to see in this one like how a town can obsess, but they don't like really like build on that. It's just all these flashy moments. There's no real emotion behind it. And then it's just like, hey, there's that guy and there's that girl. And like, we're all getting together because it's Halloween again. And then every time it doesn't feel like Halloween, we're going to like mention some other spooky Halloween thing, or something very Halloween's going to happen.
I'm gonna bum everyone out at this bar by giving my little speech about how people died. So you ruined the mood of the party completely.
And no one's like, we hear this fucking story every year. Get off the stage. Like that little bit of that one line would have been the perfect little bit of realism to like diffuse all of that. And it's still like everything can segue right to where it was going already, but it feels a little more believable than just like, I guess everybody in this town's fucking nuts obsessed with this guy, and they're just going to talk about it every. I'm shocked they didn't go down to the fucking mental institution and just execute him like 20 years ago after drinking all night on Halloween. Like, it did not take a lot to whip the town up into murdering a mentally ill guy. Like,
Well, in the reactions, now that you mentioned that, the reaction of everyone in the bar is like, oh, that's a very sad story. It's like, have you guys never heard this story that he tells every year? Why are you all new in town? Everyone in this bar has just never heard of this.
There's a guy in the background who nods like it's like a commercial about like a deal at a local restaurant or something. He's like looking around at everybody like, pretty cool, guys. Like, no, dude, you're not reading the room right. Like,
and so you're saying that at the beginning when the Jim Cummings, that's his name, right?
Yeah,
Jim
so
Cummings.
that was something I was not expecting. I don't know if he was announced beforehand, but he popped up and I was like, oh, so Jim Cummings from Thunder Road and from I might have the name of this
Wolf of Snow
wrong,
Hollow.
Wolf of Snow Hollow, and now the Beta Test. He's directed about a film a year since Thunder Road came out and won the, I think, audience award at maybe it was Sundance. He's a writer, director, actor, and he's pretty good. He's interesting. He's kind of lame on Twitter these days. He wasn't always, but
No,
that is what it is. Most people on Twitter are pretty lame.
Yeah, you got to play the scene, man.
Yeah, I guess so. He comes up in this movie as the partner of the Will Patton character, who's in the hospital and who's from the first movie. Do we have the character's name? Anybody?
Hawkins, and McCabe.
Okay.
Hawkins is Will Patton's young character, and that's the kid from Project X. I don't remember his name at all, but Jim Cummings, I believe, is just credited as Officer McCabe. I don't think he's like a real character from the original. It's not like a recasting or anything. They just he's one of the inserts that like it works for the story, but again, never really fully feels like it pays off anything for I'm wondering if that's going to come more into play in the third movie. He's just kind of like cops do bad shit sometimes. Cover it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess that is something that they could do with Halloween Ends that would subvert even more, is have it not really be about the ending of that Halloween and just go back. It seems like they want to set up a lot. They're planting a lot of seeds. You even do get Silver Shamrock in this movie with the Halloween 3 mask. They're just kind of paying homage to the rest of the series with this by getting their fingers into every little pot.
Did Michael ever kill like that before? In like a symbolic way of like, I'm scaring you people, because what he did with those masks to me was like, was to get a reaction out of people because of how gruesome those kills were, and he just left them propped up.
It depends, right? Because in the first movie, what does he do? He puts on a sheet and wears the glasses. He gets a little creative, right?
Yeah, that's one of the like silent sort of like character, I guess, like quirks about him is it's not as overt in the original, but I think from everything I've ever seen from Carpenter talking about it, it was more so like a budgetary thing. But yeah, he's literally like a 6-year-old like kid who's just like super gay for Halloween. Just that's why I like the prank on the Johns and stuff like that. It's all sort of playing into that like Halloween spirit thing, and that's really like the movie gets so campy. I thought at one point they were just gonna be like, he's just a kid who loves Halloween and snapped. Like it gets so ridiculous, but that's really like at the core of it. If you want to explain Michael Myers, at least to me, that's always how it was. It's this weird obsession, and I think more so this one silently rounds out what I've always believed is not so much that he's hunting Laurie, but it's that mentality of the ones that get away. Like actually, like if I was going to do a written review, that was kind of the basis I was going to go on, was this idea that I've had for so long. And it's not about one person in particular. He's just got this weird drive where like he locks onto these people and he gets this weird enjoyment of carving people up like a fucking pumpkin. Like it really is like he found the perfect pumpkin in the patch and he can't wait to carve it. And then that pumpkin rolled down a hill and got away from him. And so he has to get that pumpkin back and carve it up and make his art. Whatever that art is, it's different every time. But he gets a hold of it and he makes his art and he has a good time and has a mess with it. And then he goes home and he just reflects on his Halloween night and eats his candy.
So,
like a good
That's his eating
window,
his candy.
Yeah.
He's at home in the window, opening up his candy, going through it and having a good time.
I love this
Like,
little fan fiction of Michael Myers enjoying his Halloween like a normal boy. This is
yeah.
good.
Well, that's like Rob
That's
Zombie
Halloween
ruined that
ends.
in his head. Like with 2, you see the little kid version of him walking around everywhere, and it's like he's just got his Halloween boner on, running around, having the time of his life. And that's what Rob Zombie gets right, but doesn't understand that you're not supposed to show any of that. It's just supposed to be like inferred through good visual storytelling.
Now,
Uh,
let me ask you something. Yeah, I'm sure you remember better than me. Is there another time where Michael Myers has a scene where he's pretty much Bruce Lee, where he fights 10 people, but they all wait for their turn, like the firefighters, where they're instead of attacking them all at once, they're just like waiting for him to kill, and then okay, my turn, and then they just fly away.
that's where it gets insane to me, but that's
Okay,
like that movie suspension of disbelief where
right.
like if they did it any other way than that at that point after the rest of the movie unfolding, it would have just been like, oh yeah, the town could have literally just banded together and whooped his ass at any point in time. Like if it weren't for all of this confusion and panic, it just never would have happened. So that's one of those things where I just had to concede, like, we're so off the deep end at this point. You just have to enjoy the fucking craziness that unfolds in front of you, which is literally like a brawl I've seen in like neighborhoods I've grown up in, like where just like some guy gets out of hand and like hits a woman or something, and all of a sudden 20 dudes are beating the shit out of him, and it
Well,
ends.
no. I mean the beginning one with the firefighters, because
Oh, okay.
he has the firefighter one where it's like 10 of them and they come at him one by one, and then you have the second one where they all come at him at once,
I
where they
don't
kind of
think
control
he
him
ever
for a bit.
even does any real like flourishy shit. It's always been like stabbing dudes, picking guys up.
Sneaky stabbing,
Like
yeah.
he had the ridiculous one, and I think like was it like it might have been actually H2O where he fakes his death at the end. I think he like scalpels a guy in the back and picks him up off the ground like he does. It makes no sense because it's with a scalpel. But he like picks a guy up like 3 feet off the ground with it. But like in those sequels that they try to redact, that's what confused me about the 2018 one, is they try to redact all that where he got like basically superhuman power, and then in like 5 they explain it's because he's like part of an Irish cult. What was it
Right.
they
No, no,
call it
no.
like
The
the
Irish
Sam
cult
Hain.
was Halloween 3. The Thorn cult is 4, 5, 6, and that is that just seems to be neutral
It's
English
based on
Anglo
pseudo
whatever.
Irish
With
lore. They
some miams, something like
No, they're
that.
not
was it
Chinese.
Samhain or whatever.
Sign
But
Ho.
yeah, so they're like trying to redact all of that, and that's again why this one's so bonkers and all over the place. Is if you're a guy like me or even more diehard people that's really been paying attention to both of these and are just like a fan of Halloween in general, part of you is like, why the fuck did they spend so much time in the first movie redacting everything and playing it so straight and serious just to sort of unredact half of it in this one and completely 180 it in tone?
Well, he got the
Uh,
powers out of the fire, I think, because he was a normal
yeah.
human before he was burned alive, and then when his mask burned, he got powers.
Well, yeah, he leveled up after the first movie. They mentioned that at the end of this one. Every time he kills, he transcends, which is just a fancy way of he leveled up.
Right.
He kills a guy, gets a little bit of experience. He kills a couple more guys. He's a new level. He gets some special powers. Then he can take on 20 guys, and he's not dead yet. Like, we know he's not dead unless the third movie is just fucking bonkers and they do one of the riskiest things ever in like mainstream horror, and they're just like Halloween Ends is literally just the long ass ending to it's like Laurie driving home in a car for an hour and 45 minutes. Like he's just dead. Like I can't imagine anything like that's happening. I imagine he's gonna spring up in the first act and just, start butchering people left and right like he did in this one. They'll probably start it off with that clip again. Did any of you guys think that was a fucking dream the first time you watched it?
Which part specifically? The very end?
The very De Palma like group murder at the end there, where it's like the tiger suit guy and Tommy and Brackett and all these people.
Yeah.
And it looks like they're in like one of those like black rooms where just the walls are painted like that.
Right, and you get everybody has their
black.
own like medium to close shot, and it's like,
yeah.
And then
there's all these
he's
like
cutting these
weird
people up.
camera movements that are
Yeah.
like panning around. It
I
felt like a
fucking
video
love
game.
that. I love that.
Mm.
First of all, they didn't even like do a very good job of beating him up as like
No,
a mob or anything.
No.
And then she was just like she stabbed him. And that was it. It was so wimpy, so lame. I did
they're
Anthony Michael
dancing.
Hall even use his baseball bat once in this
Yeah.
movie? He was
Well, he
just
tries. I'm looking at it right now. He tries to hit him with it, and it doesn't work.
That's one of the weird things to me. You'd think after all that buildup of, like you said, him being the hero of the story and how they set him up like that throughout, just the classic, like he's the fucking white knight down to the, like I thought at least they'd like play against that trope in a bigger way too, where he even comes into Laurie is like, you protected me when I was a little kid. Now I'm gonna whoop this dude's ass for you, and like runs out of the hospital. But you'd think he would have had like the first big heroic swing, and it's just like Puerto Rican guy like just walks up and clubs Michael Myers with a wrench, and they're like, all right, it's on. And I think Tommy gets like the fourth swing, and like you said, you don't see him connect or anything. I was like, it's just the weirdest, like nothing really ever pays
I
off
think
other than the kills.
that character, I think we're supposed to laugh at him. And he's supposed to be the guy in the town who leads that community watch or whatever, who thinks he's a big tough guy, big bold hero, and then can't pull off anything. They totally like throw that character Tommy. It's a total opposite direction of the Paul Rudd version, that grown up Tommy, where he's just like a dumb like townie who sits at the bar. He's got one thing that makes him famous, and he looks forward to it every Halloween. This is what he's known for. He goes up to the mic, says, "I survived Michael Myers when I was a kid." He wants to be that hero. He leads the mob. The little crazy guy jumps off the building, kills himself, and then he does that scene with Laurie. I'm going to defend you like you defended me, and he can't pull it off because he's not that guy. And
I
I
hope so because that's how it translated to me. Every time he spoke, I was like, I'm not supposed to
if
take
he's
this guy
supposed to
seriously,
be a
right?
hero, they would not have cast dumpy Anthony Michael Hall, who's got a big
That's
old beer gut, and they made him shave his head, I guess, for this to like look even less flattering.
more
Because he's
like
He
a
not
looks
a
like
bad
giant.
looking dude, but
he looks like Michael McDowell, like a young Michael McDowell, just fat.
yeah,
Well, he's like one of them old young men now where you can't tell if he's like a young looking old guy or like an old looking like middle-aged man. It's like this weird uncanny valley. But that's where I mean though, like they kind of set him up as this hero early on, and you don't know if you're supposed to take him seriously or not because everyone around is taking it like very seriously. That's where they still play it straight, is no matter how ridiculous shit gets, no one's ever like, this is bonkers.
hmm
But like they set it up like that, and that's why I thought there would be a little bit more of like a subversion or something like that, where he is like he pisses his pants and runs off at the end there while
Right.
everybody's getting butchered, and then we see some follow up to it. But he's just like a really long fucking cameo in this movie where it doesn't really pay off either way as him really being that like white knight or like the failed white knight, where you set it up the whole time and he does just end up being like a dumpy fucking idiot at the end, which is like kind of what happens, but there's not any real like that what I guess that pulls to like my biggest issue that I didn't really bring up is the editing is really fucking weird in this. There's no room for anything to breathe like a normal horror movie. And I
Mm.
think that's one of the things is I guess he does extend it. He did an extended cut on the last one. I haven't seen that yet, so I need to check that out. But I guess he's made some mention a while ago. I read he plans on doing an extended cut for all of them on like the disc release. But it feels like that 20 minutes you said that's like inserted, it feels like there's like a second team director that did some of the movie because
mm.
there's all these wild shots that come out of left field that feel kind of like insert shots, like that ending obviously that feels like it's shot on a black soundstage when Big John gets his head crushed, that literally cuts to like an old grainy camera, and I think that was like an intentional like throwback to one of the older movies.
Mm.
But there's all these weird decisions where it feels like two different people were like steering the ship at all times.
Here's my suspicion. I think maybe Danny McBride was acting as kind of like silent co-director on this, and that's why there's more of a comedic bend to it. Because I mean, this was originally supposed to be the both of them, but he's the writer, and I think he's the producer, and it does seem to have what I'd probably consider his sensibilities more. Although if you look at David Gordon Green's filmography in general, it's exactly what we're talking about here, where some of them are like very straightforward by the numbers, well shot, looks good, play it normal, and then others are completely over the top, visually out there,
Mhm.
and not what you would expect from the guy who direct. Like you would not think that the director of Pineapple Express and All the Real Girls were the same guy, and then also directed this Halloween movie and the last Halloween movie. Like there seems to be some sort of texture to his filmmaking that is overlapping, but he doesn't have a sense of consistency as far as tone or even just the sensibilities of what is portrayed on screen.
It's a very all over the place kind of filmmaking. Like he just sort of does what he wants. And I
Yeah.
like that about, I think that's why I ended up liking this. So like, it's weird that I feel like I had to like convince myself that I liked this movie because there's
Yeah.
so much of it that I don't like. But like I was joking with my girlfriend, when this thing drops, I'm probably going to drag it into like Premiere and cut out like all of the expositionary dialogue. And I bet you the fucking movie is a banger. Like if it's not like every 2 minutes, it's like, hey, for all the fucking idiots in the audience, I'm Lori. This is this person. Like there's so many shots, like when they zoom in on Brackett's fucking name tag in the hospital, old Brackett, and they've already had like 3 scenes with him in it at this point. It's like, okay, the normal like movie going audience that's been paying attention and likes watching a movie fucking already knows who this dude is 3 times over, and we're now panning over and zooming in on his name tag purely for the people that are completely left behind and like, who the fuck's this old guy right now? And there's so much of that throughout the movie, and then it's like every time you're like, oh wait, what are they doing here? They're like, we gotta kill Michael, evil dies tonight. And I'm like, fuck, dude. Like if half of this dialogue wasn't in the movie, this would have just been, I feel like the whole audience would have been crazy about it, because that's what most of the diehards are pissed about too, is like all the just like it feels like they wrote like 2/3 of the movie and then were just padding it out with like crowd dialogue. Like they're like, all right, we got the crowd scene at the hospital, we can really eat up a bunch of time there. The black cowboy Sheriff Parker, ends up barely being a character.
No, he's sitting
Yeah.
down and just kind of sad and tired
He's
that night.
You see
Weirdest
his
shot in the
reflection in a
movie.
mirror. Yeah.
Just like soft crying on the
Yeah, like,
staircase.
damn, I did nothing to save that guy. And I probably could have. I just.
Do you
ignored him.
guys think they're setting anything up with because when the Judy Greer character starts seeing that everyone's getting killed or whatever, she looks back up to the house, and on that window you see the little girl, or I guess the little Michael
Little
dressed up
Michael,
as a
yeah.
clown. Do you guys think they're setting anything up there, or is it just he's still there, so when she goes upstairs she gets killed?
I
'Cause
I think that was more just another one of those just like mindless nods to the old sequels, because there's like there's ones where people are like seeing weird flashes of Michael everywhere, and that's a thing I know in the Rob Zombie ones, where like their version of Laurie is like losing her fucking mind in the second one,
Yeah.
and eventually is seeing like Michael and their mother and everything in it. But that's like more of that shit that's like really confusing, is like it's never really clear on like what's just sort of a fan servicey moment and what's like actually supposed to be taken seriously as part of the narrative in this one. And there's all these little bits I really like I think it's Hawkins mentions at one point he doesn't think he was looking out the window in his sister's room. He thinks he might have been looking at his reflection and sort of like, reflecting it on his own self. And it kind of like leaves you on this cliffhanger of like, oh, maybe this dude sort of does have his own thought process. No matter how demented it must be, there's something ticking in there. We just don't understand it. We get in the way of whatever the fuck it is this dude wants. But yeah, I think that's another one of those ones where it's just kind of like a nod to the old movies, like the Silver Shamrock masks. There's just like the last one, there's kills that are kind of like reminiscent of older ones, like the lifting the firefighter up is sort of like become a signature of his, where he stabs a guy. the 2018 one, he pins Sarandon's kid to the wall like he did Bob in the original. Who was Bob fucking Odenkirk in this one for a brief cameo. I don't know if you guys heard about that.
What? Bob Odenkirk was in this movie?
In the bar, his high school photo is Bob from the original movie. When Tommy's watching the TV and they're talking about the murders and they realize more people have died, the shot of the kid in glasses is supposed to be Bob, who got pinned into the wall in the original, and they couldn't find the original actor to sign off on the rights, but they knew Bob Odenkirk and they had seen him post a photo of him in high school on like Twitter or something when they were shooting the movie, and he looked so much like Bob in the original movie, like the actor that played Bob, that they were like, can we use your photo for the movie?
Wow.
And that photo of
that went right over my head.
Bob Odenkirk.
That's
because I saw it and I was like, that looks fucking nothing like Bob. What the fuck?
He looks like Jason Voorhees, that kid. That looks like Jeffrey Dahmer.
Like a melted crayon man. But
who's the lead character of this movie? Because it's clearly not Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode, where Will Patton's like, it's not about you, you dumb bitch. He's not after you.
How many times I gotta tell you?
God, he likes killing people. He's not obsessed with you.
Don't they do that too? He says something along those lines and sets it up, and then they cut back to something else. I can't remember if that's when they're like storming the retard or what, but they like cut to something else, and then they cut back and he's like, no, woman, I told you, like, it's because that night I didn't let Loomis kill him. I did my job. I didn't let a dude commit a crime. He's like, we all should have murdered that guy together, but we didn't. We did the right thing, and I regret it. And then I was like, that's enough. And then he throws in the line, and he's like, I just kept thinking it might have been someone else's little boy in there. And I was like, well, he is, but like, he's fucking killed a bunch of people and got you to shoot your partner.
He just murdered a bunch of children.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, her face looks like a rotten pumpkin in that shot.
That, I guess, too, was supposed to be kind of like an anti-gun, like, I guess, moment, because there's not really a message to the movie.
I got like soft, I don't know if I'd call it right-wing vibes, but the whole mob thing felt like a very subtle, not even subtle, but just a commentary on like cancel culture shit. And I know Jamie Lee Curtis was
just following,
and how that can just
you can get the wrong people.
Yes, and I remember Jamie Lee Curtis was on Instagram or Twitter talking about how this is a female empowerment film, and it's like, how do you get that at all from this movie? That first movie, I think you can certainly claim that's the case.
Yeah.
This one, not even close. Judy Greer has her moment of empowerment, and then it's fucking washed away within 2 minutes, and she looks like an asshole.
Yeah, the pitchfork one, where she just like hits him with the pitchfork, and then she's like, all right, I've done it. It's like, are you stupid? Are you not aware?
Fucking curb stomped him too. I love that little bit. I was like, there should have been more of this with the women in the movie. That's the probably the biggest problem of all, is if you read like the Peacock description of this movie, it says like Laurie Strode in the town of Haddonfield finally hunt down Michael Myers. It's like, that bitch doesn't leave the hospital. Like she goes on a fucking truck ride, and then she the only guy she murders in this movie is a doctor's testicles in one scene.
She tries to run away, and then she's like, ow, it hurts.
Yeah, the Foley artist like is like crushing metal cans and shit when that guy gets hit in the balls. So it's like, Jesus Christ, that doctor died like 30 steps later up the hallway, just fell over dead from the nut crunch. That scene has like the best song in the movie, in my opinion, for just like one of the weirdest scenes. Like everybody's just sort of running and jumping around, moving down the hallway, and it looks ridiculous. Like no one's ever seen footage of like a panicked crowd of people or anything. It's very it feels very movie-esque. Like everybody stay at least a foot apart, like COVID restrictions for how you riot.
It's also something that you don't do. I mean, you're trying to get this killer that's been killing people for 40 years, and everyone's just like, yeah, let me go at him.
He's built
Why?
like the penguin. That's
Yeah.
another weird editing thing. So he's like right at the door, and when the establishing shot is set up, you see there's people inside the hospital, outside the hospital, paramedics coming and going, bringing bodies in. They're using it like was it the fucking morgue or whatever is in the hospital. So they're bringing bodies in from the last movie and shit still. That Oliver kid or whatever is put up there, and his mom spots him at one point, but it's like, there's people all around this hospital. This
Oh my God.
mentally ill, retarded guy is like standing outside the door where there have got to be people right behind him from what the editor showed us, and like on the other side of like an inch thick plate of glass, and he's going, help me, help me.
He looks just like the penguin.
Help
Look.
me.
Oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah, he's
Yeah, it's
Oswald
Oswald
Cobblepot, dude.
Cobblepot.
And he literally hobbles like the penguin and everything. He's like
Can we
hobbling
get
down the
there you
hallway.
go. Yeah, that's what Michael Myers looks like. That's how he's
Yeah.
always looked, just hunched over with a big round
Yeah.
head, little
That's
body.
the guy that's killing everybody in town.
This
because we
guy,
are all
yeah.
feeble. Yeah, they didn't mention the entire town of Haddonfield is disabled in some way. So this
Wasn't
guy's just running
splattered on
around
the
with
ground.
retard strength, crushing people alive. Can you imagine that guy killing just the 7 firefighters at the beginning of this
Yeah,
movie?
right.
He crawls out of the hole.
So this movie
Like-
doesn't have a main character. It's definitely an ensemble
Michael?
piece. I mean, I guess you could say the Judy Greer character takes the lead here for the most part, maybe. But you also have that one character. You have Tommy, obviously, and you have the one character. I forget his name in the film, but he is known for being in that Steve Little film, The Cataclysm, which was produced by David Gordon Green and Danny
character?
McBride. Hans, you've seen it?
Yeah.
It's a strange film. Spencer, it's pretty obscure. I know IFC put it out like
Yeah,
12
I've
years
never
ago
even
or
heard of
something.
that. What character are you talking about, though?
He's kind of a burly, heavy set guy. He's a bit older.
Lonnie, the grown-up Lonnie?
Is it Lonnie? Hans, do you remember if that's Lonnie?
Like the main
don't know.
dude that's friends with Tommy at the bar at the beginning?
I think so. Yeah, he joins the mob and he
He
gets
was just
killed.
in Midnight Mass, too, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, yeah,
If we're talking about the same dude. He's
I
the
think
one
so.
who introduces Tommy at the bar at the beginning of the movie.
I believe so.
The one that
That's-
drives
yeah, So that's
Natalie
grown
and
up Lonnie.
Bianca.
That's the kid that Michael Myers almost kills in the flashback at the beginning.
The one that falls on the ground, and then when the cops come in,
yeah,
Michael's not there
Cummings
anymore.
and Project X kid find him,
Yeah.
and Michael Myers slips into the Myers house, and then Lonnie grows up, and I think they mention his wife at some point, but I don't think she's a named character. I think she might have been mentioned, but his son is Cameron, who's Laurie's granddaughter.
Who's the
he's one
worst
who,
character in this movie? The most annoying character, has the most delicious death in the
Well,
whole movie.
So they explain so much and do so much narrative hand holding, and that fucking dude, like he's the opening character of the movie. So like I guess he's kind of the main character. They set him up and they don't kill him immediately, which is like the slasher standard. Is the first person you see is normally just a victim to like grease the wheels. But
Right.
he finds Hawkins, and then I thought his whole arc was gonna be like redemption arc, where like he's making up for cheating on Allison in the last movie. And no, it's just like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. Let's go kill Michael Myers. She's just like,
all right, my dad's gonna pick us up. She's like, all right.
yeah.
What? Because
My dad-
I think it's her mom is like, no, you can't go, and she's like, that's when he says that line. Tommy's organizing groups of people that care, and she's
Yeah,
like, okay,
yeah.
cool, I'm going.
I care about murder. That's one of those things though where I look at it after watching it so many times now, and like talking to LowRes and some other friends, is like I look at it, and if you're thinking of it like they're playing into all these Halloween tropes and everything, like Halloween as the season and like the holiday and everything, there's so much of it that works as just like a campy Halloween movie, not like Halloween Michael Myers film. There's the prank with the kids and Big John and Little John.
The
There's just,
ugliest skill in the world. Oh no, wait, that's
spooky
on the
vibes.
flashback.
I think that's what works too with a lot of the like campy dialogue, is like how some of the scenes the characters all add a little bit of lore to Michael Myers, but at a certain point it like ramps up to such a ridiculous level that you get to that monologue at the end with Laurie where it's just like explaining everything that's happened all along and why he's just all of a sudden able to do insane superhero shit.
Do you guys like that one part with Big John where Little John says, "Oh, that ain't a kid in the house," and Big John goes, "Fuck that shit," and then removes all. We spend maybe about a minute with Big John removing all his rings and jewelry, and then taking off his bathrobe, and then he just picks up the tiniest knife in the house to defend himself. I
For
thought that
that
was
very
hilarious.
hack penis joke.
Yeah, yes, yeah. I really enjoyed though going back to those two and those two being prompted as like legitimate characters in this movie, and it's just so ridiculous. I think this is one of the most fun Halloween movies right now as it stands, and this could definitely change. This might be my favorite Halloween film. That's where I stand with it because it offers almost too much. It's it's a confusing and very amusing and quite original slasher film that feels, maybe you said it over DMs. It feels like something that would fit right in the 80s where they're just like they're figuring shit
Yeah.
out. Whoever is handling the film, do whatever you want. Fuck the lore. Fuck whatever's coming next. We're not thinking 8 steps ahead. We're just going to do whatever we want with this one, and whatever it is, it is. That's what this feels like.
Yeah.
Can we talk about whatever this
Oh, Jesus Christ.
is?
Was that the kid from Heavyweights and he
What the
slimmed down?
fuck? I saw that and I was like, wait a second, I have to pause. Is that a mask? Is that the ugliest child I've ever seen in my life?
That kid was cast for his hair. They were
Look
like,
at
yeah,
that.
you are perfectly ugly for the movie. We are gonna fit you in. Yeah, you see something like that, just such a strange person. You're like, yep, you're gonna be in here. Yeah, that's the first time you see Beckett. It's young him, and I couldn't tell if they just cast an actor or if that was like a rotoscope of his face, because I'm pretty sure that's the face of the original one.
With
Or
this kid?
Brackett. No, the cop.
Oh, you mean right. You mean this guy.
That's young Lonnie.
I was
That
just
fucking kid though, man. That's his real hair.
that's his real face too. Yeah, gingers.
Ugh.
Yeah, I feel like he's wearing like red face, you know. It's a stereotypical ginger person.
Mm.
That's not very nice depiction of the redhead community.
It's
Well, since I labeled this one my favorite, at least temporarily, we'll see. I'm going to watch it a third time later this week, and we'll see how that goes over. What would you two cite as your favorite Halloween films? We'll start with you, Spencer.
I honestly love the original. Like,
Mm.
it's not even my favorite Carpenter movie, but I love the original Halloween. If we're talking like favorite Halloween movies, I think I enjoy the Rob Zombie ones a lot more than other people, and I'd put them higher up.
I enjoy the first one. Look, I don't dislike Rob Zombie at all. I enjoy his aesthetic for the most part. I think he's fallen off, unfortunately. But I
I
do like
think
that first Halloween as a Rob Zombie film.
Yeah, and I
that's
think if you're talking reboots, that's the only reason I brought this up. I just want to get this out really quick.
Mm.
If you're talking reboots, I think his first one, in the long run, after seeing everything that's come out so far, I think his first one is way more interesting than the first one for this run. Even
Mhm.
though I think this run is a good movie and still an interesting movie, it was really slow, and I think I told you I think it kind of suffered from trying to be a little bit like the original and not just completely trying to do its own thing. And that's why I really like I'd probably say this one's like Halloween Kills is probably like my number 2 now, right underneath the original. I
Oh,
wouldn't say
wow.
it's my favorite over the original, but
Sure.
like I've been so conflicted on it, but like just talking off of like watching it and the enjoyability of like the kills, the package as a whole, the obscene amount of like dialogue hand holding is not like bad enough to ruin the overall experience. And like you said, it's directors and writers whose stuff I enjoy outside the genre doing something crazy and just absolutely going for it. it feels like something from the 80s where they were given some insane budget that even they couldn't fucking believe. And they were like, we need to make this shit as quickly as possible so they can't take the money away from us because it's already spent. Like, and they just like the Big John, Little John thing, I just assume was, it had to be, it's like fucking you and Hans getting together and like coming up with this ridiculous fucking idea for a
okay.
little scene, and you're bouncing fucking stupid ideas back and forth. You're like,
I was
we're
gonna say
writing the new
cast us as
Halloween,
Big
man.
John and Little John. Halloween.
No, I mean, you guys
Go
are
back in
writing,
time.
you guys are Gordon Green and Danny McBride, and you're bouncing ideas back and forth, and you come up with this idea for this ridiculous gay couple, and you're like, it had to be like, you know, just a dumb fucking, they're like, that's a hack joke. They had to be completely aware of what they were doing, and we're just like, it's our fucking movie, we'll do it anyways, who gives a shit.
They
And
felt
like you were
very-
saying, if it really is a commentary on cancel culture, and it's kind of like, you know, don't judge a book by a cover, don't jump to conclusions, you might get the wrong guy. Like, is this witch hunt shit really worth it at the end of the day? Because, you know, if we're all focused on the wrong thing, the right thing is still out there doing bad. So it's like, if it really was that at the core, it makes sense that they would lean into just wholeheartedly doing their own thing and having fun with shit like that and being a little bit riskier, because they've done way crazier jokes and shit on like Eastbound and Down and stuff like that. So
oh yeah, Michael Myers
it's
would be
not
on
like
a
they're treading
plantation
into new
next
water
one.
with it.
We're gonna see Jamie
Michael
Lee
Myers
Curtis.
in
Yeah,
Louisiana,
Louisiana,
yeah.
ship, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah, the jokes are like very mild in comparison and almost non-existent. But yeah, like you said, I think it's crazy that you think it's your favorite. I love the original, and I'd almost put Season of the Witch above this one too, because I also really like that one. But that's one where I also haven't revisited it since I was like 15 years old, and it's one I'm like worried I'm gonna go back to and not enjoy as much.
I think it's
But
pretty
yeah,
fun, and I think Tom Atkins is a great leading character for
Atkins
any
fucking
movie.
rocks.
But especially in that one where he's just a drunk doctor dad who's cheating on
Who
his
fucks.
wife, and he's sleeping with a
Is it
literal
Night of the
20-year-old.
Comet he's in too? He's in another one that's just like batshit nuts the whole movie.
Yeah,
He's a
I
cop
think
in that one too.
I think he's in Night of the Comet, but he's not the lead in that. It's
Night
Teenage
of the
Girls,
Creeps.
isn't it? Night of the Creeps.
Yeah,
That's what he's.
that's
in.
what it is. Yeah, and he's just like the detective in the movie, but it's such a fucking weird like B plot to a movie. That would be a good one for you guys to cover on here sometime if you're looking to cover some just fucking wild horror. But yeah, man, this one crazy. I want to ask something. What was your favorite shot in this movie?
That's a good question. I think it's actually probably at the end when you have Michael just getting up from the ground and going, "Okay, you guys all tried. Now it's my turn." There's a shot where it's very quick, where they cut to Jamie Lee Curtis kind of peering down, I guess, out of the hospital or whatever's happening, and it kind of makes it look like she's witnessing the thing, but I clearly don't think she is. But it's
Yeah,
just,
no, there's just all this like visual movement like that makes it seem like it's this weird like omniscient thing going on
Right.
with everyone, like Hans was saying, where she looks up at little Michael in the window at the, there's so much that feels like there's more going on than there is the
Yeah.
whole time.
So there's this shot of her, and it felt very Dressed to Kill, very Blowout, Brian De Palma. When I think there's a scene specifically in Blowout where maybe it's John Lithgow's character is looking down the escalator, and we're kind of gradually panning out. It had that same vibe to it, and that was around the time I was like, I really enjoy this movie. I really dig this movie. So I would say that's probably my favorite shot of the film.
Yeah, I don't know what to call that. It had like almost like a weird parallax feel.
Yeah.
They had like the reverse, like there weren't physical blinds in front of you, but you could see like the lines cutting through Laurie throughout the whole
That was
thing.
another thing too. So there's a scene of Laurie in the hospital bed, and I think she's talking to the Will Patton character, and I was like, is there banding on this? Because when you shoot with a DSLR camera or any digital camera, and you have fluorescent lights, that can be a real problem. And you'll look inside the viewfinder, and you'll see these black bars just taking their time, and sometimes they're very subtle, coming down on screen. And that's what you wind up seeing in this shot, which you just referenced, where she's talking in her hospital bed, and it's a gradual pan out, And it's like, no, it's just the blinds. It's only the blinds. There's a shadow from the blinds. It's not banding. It's the blinds. And I was like, that was kind of ugly and obviously deceptive. I mean, good for them. I was thinking, is this like the new I guess like charming effect of digital technology now? Like, you know, if you shot with a film camera, you get like the specks and the dirt and the grain and the hair. Are we just going to do banding now? Are we going to just adopt these weak spots of digital cameras? No, 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 no. That's not the case at all.
Yeah, it's like very weird too, because I'm not like a filmmaker or anything. I'm more of a writer. And there's all these shots in it where it's like it feels like something like from when I was a kid and I would shoot like shit on like a little handy cam and stuff, just playing around with friends. It was like it really it felt like there was a lot of shots where they just showed up at the location and were like, well, this would be cool. And that's why I mean it's cool to see something that's this big a budget and feels so much just like a group of close friends making something with just like an insane licensed property, because it's so wacky that this movie was $20 million, and I think I read somewhere they spent like another 12 million on fucking marketing or something like that, which seems absurd to me, but what the fuck do I know about spending money on movies? This movie looks like you could probably have done it for like a couple million tops, other than like the hospital set and maybe the burning house. There's not like a ton there that requires a lot of money. And like one of the biggest kill gags, a lot of it looks really digital. Like that's the only thing I didn't really like about the ending, is because they did those, you know, there's no real cutaway or editing tricks. Like after watching it so many times, like when he slashes a dude's arm, you see the slash happen in real time. It's kind of hard to really like do in real time.
Are you guys
Normally.
surprised that this was such a success at the box office, given that it was released basically for free to anybody who has cable the same day?
After the success of the first one, I'm really not. I'm not. I'm also not surprised at the reaction of it, because the first one was so successful and you were setting something up that you're not following through with. So I understand where those complaints come from, but not really. I mean, supposed to believe that things are getting back to normal, right? Movie theaters are back up and open, at least up there. I don't know.
By
I don't know.
comparison, what was it? Bond had a $900 million budget, I think it was, and it made
Whoa.
$50 million opening
Dude, yeah,
weekend.
Good.
It is not making. That was a giant uphill battle, no matter what.
Yeah.
But they're gonna have to like reform and rescale everything for
They're
that,
still
that next
making
one.
movies for that
What did-
much that are not superhero movies.
Yeah.
What
That's
did the
ridiculous.
2018 one make? Because I remember that one was it was
That did
10 million
gangbusters.
they spent on it, I'm pretty sure, and then they doubled the budget for this one, because I'm pretty sure that's what I read the other night, but I don't remember what the hell the 2018 one made.
I feel like it made 80 million or 85 million.
Okay, because I know this one's already doubled its money in the opening weekend. But that's that whole, like, if you're just talking pandemic numbers and shit, horror has pretty much been like a sure bet, like almost guaranteed money across the board throughout the pandemic. There was a lot of guys like you guys early on who were just like dudes on the internet making shit together, who slapped together some really schlocky fucking horror movies and got their names out to way bigger audiences just because there was like a deficit to content. For like, I remember reading news for like 2 months where fucking just everywhere was like, you know, studios are looking for shit to buy just to like put in theaters when they didn't even know if theaters were going to be open or not. And like Host is one of the ones that comes to mind. They got a
Fucking
huge
piece of
deal.
So bad. Have
Who
you guys
is
seen
it?
that one?
What is that fucking one? Daniel Isn't Real. That guy Skyra. I mean, that one I really enjoyed, but that guy got like a huge deal off of it just because everybody was at home. So many people watched that movie really quick. Not to discredit that movie, because I enjoyed it. That had Sarandon's kid in it too, from the 2018 Halloween, and Schwarzenegger's kid too, the legitimate one.
The fat one?
No, this is the jacked one, the golden child.
Oh,
I think it's Patrick, I
the
believe is his
No,
name.
hold
The
on.
Mexican one.
I think that's his nephew.
Oh, that's his nephew. I thought it was his son.
There
I thought
was
that was
I think there was a Patrick Schwarzenegger on Celebrity Apprentice when Arnold took over for a season, and it was his nephew, and he always took the opportunity to dunk on him, like he was privately jealous of
that's
his nephew or
hilarious. Yeah,
something.
That's
I
fun.
just assumed it was his son because he looks like Arnold and Maria. Uh,
Just to correct you a little bit, LowRes, there, the movie made 159 million domestically and
Wow,
96 million internationally, so a total of 255 million with a 10
yeah.
million
that's
budget.
baller. All right, so maybe it
So
made 85 million
it
opening
crushed.
weekend.
Yeah,
And like original Halloween was made for
300,000.
it's misquoted as 500,000 a lot, but it was, I think John Carpenter says in an interview it was around like 320,000 when everything was said and done. There's like no fucking marketing other than like that little original trailer that came out when I think like the VHS came out or something. Um but that nowadays, like if you adjust for inflation, I think is around like 1.3 million. I think I looked that up the other night. I for some reason didn't put it in my notes. I have here the kill count. 39 plus one retard, one dog, one doctor's testicles. Because
Uh,
he kills a dog at the beginning in the flashback that wasn't ever shown in any of the movies. So it's like if we're being accurate here,
Mm.
and technically he didn't kill the retarded guy. As a
he
forever
just
scene.
jumped hilariously,
Yeah.
yeah. And splatter. That was a cool shot. I have it
That
right
was.
here.
It's
Where
a
he's
great
just
effect. A very good
splatter on the
Oh,
floor.
looks like
Yeah.
Mickey Rourke.
the twitch on the guy really sells it
Yeah.
too, because I think some of
There.
that it almost looks digital.
Yeah.
I'm
But then he
assuming they
moves.
just shot it on a flat plate or something.
Yeah.
Like that's probably not the ground outside the hospital. That's probably just like a fake slab of asphalt.
Right.
Yeah, he's laying on it and they're shooting at him from above. But
I
it's
guess
great effect on doing that's like if you're a low budget movie, that's like you could even just paint the top of that guy's head green and green screen it if you're doing it digitally, but that's such a cheap effect that they probably saved a lot of money doing it in that tight shot like that, which makes it feel way more fucking uncomfortable too than if like you just had that wide shot where it shows him in the crowd that they pull out to after. Like I don't think it would have been nearly as like, wow, this is fucked up. And then they gloss over that. Tommy's just like, what do you want me to do?
I guess I'm
No.
surprised this was such a success because it seems like people have reverted back into the pandemic fear. But also, the buzz around Halloween 2018 kind of died down, I want to say. And around the time it got delayed, because I believe this is a film that was originally supposed to be released in 2020, it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of hype coming up
2019
about...
or 2020. It was, yeah, I
Oh,
think
wow.
it originally it was supposed to be 18, 19, and 20. I'm pretty sure they announced them all coming out within a year of each other. And I think it got delayed a year, then delayed another year when like COVID just set in. Sorry to interrupt you, but yeah, I'm pretty sure because I was still kind of affiliated with the movie theater that I worked at when they like announced them and would go like help out part-time and shit. And then like when they came out, I went and saw it like a couple of nights before it even opened because I just like I was basically a manager there for years and I would just go see the managers and be like, all right, I'm fucking watching that shit now in an empty theater. Like we used to just go there and be like, whatever fucking DVD, Blu-ray you wanted to put in, you could go watch whatever you wanted to on like the IMAX screens and stuff. So I stayed in touch with everybody there, but I'm pretty sure they were announced like all back to back every Halloween for 3 years. So this, I think, was supposed to be the last year that one would have been coming out.
That
like
sounds
ends
right.
should have been coming out.
But also, just in general, horror sequels typically, I feel like, don't make as much money as the predecessor. I know that was the case with It Chapter 2. The buzz died down. People didn't show up to the theater. They weren't as into it. Maybe it was because there was obviously less of a Stranger Things vibe to it, but even that whole trend had faded out by that point. So I didn't have the expectation that this was going to be a big hit. And then you do have the element of this going direct to streaming the same day. Now, granted, everybody who has a Comcast cable box or Xfinity or whatever has Peacock by default. But nobody knows what the fuck Peacock is. Peacock isn't Netflix. Peacock isn't HBO Max. It's not Hulu. Everybody has it right in front of them for free. But it's such an obscure platform, and it's not a bad platform. You can watch Night
No.
Gallery, Twilight Zone, Kolchak the Night Stalker, Columbo. I check out all these shows on there. They don't have much for movies,
The
obviously.
interface has some great features too.
Yeah,
That
Is Police
little like
Squad?
when a movie ends and it plays like trailers for other similar shit and it's actually
yeah,
similar stuff. They have
it's
some
not
good
bad.
Halloween shit up right now. If you're a horror dude like me, there's definitely some solid movies on there right now. I don't know what it was like a couple of weeks ago. I had an old man moment where I was like, went to my girlfriend and was like, do we have fucking Peacock, whatever the fuck that is? And she was like, yeah, it's like free with cable. I was like, all right, can you show me? Like, it's very strange, but we already had it set up and everything. So I just, like I said, I watched it in my office. I'm almost ashamed to say how many times I watched it, but I've watched it 10 times now.
Already, Jesus
That's why. Oh
Christ.
my god.
Yeah.
I thought I was excessive it too.
Yeah, and what day is it? Like I've lost
It
track.
came
of
out
the
like
day.
3 days ago.
Yeah.
And I haven't watched it in a day. Or
You haven't
actually,
watched
that's a
anything else,
fucking lie.
apparently.
That's a lie because I've watched it 11 times now. I told you I watched it right before we
Oh,
went live to
Jesus.
touch
Oh
up on it.
God! You
It's
know
like
this
I'm a
movie
little
like the
high. I
back of
don't
your
remember
hand.
it exactly.
I had the script to
Uh,
this movie, and we were reading it on one of the last shows we did, and I was like, "This is a big piece of shit." The ending of that script was not the ending of this movie,
I
and I was
can't
reading
wait for
through
you
it
to read
and
mine.
yeah. Uh,
No,
I'm
Go
like,
ahead,
piece of
Hans.
shit or awesome horror script.
just
Yeah.
well, just a couple of things. My favorite one is the first one, because I feel like the tone
What?
of it.
That
The
was a
yeah,
question a half hour ago,
I
I
Hans.
cut
know
him
I
off
didn't get to
though because I'm a
answer.
loud
Chill.
idiot.
So I love the music and I love the setting and how different from everything slasher related it is. Because even though it's about this crazy monster, I guess that we don't know if it's a monster or a person, the violence is not that. It's not really graphic at all, but the way that the soundtrack, the music works in it, works with the way that it's shot so well that I don't think has been replicated in any on of the sequels, and it's the only one that I've gone back to more than twice, just because I enjoy how it's shot so much. I love all those camera movements that he does. That it feels more artistic than the regular, slasher film where it's just violence. And I guess it makes sense because it's one of the first one, if not the first one. But that's the one that I've gone back to the most. After going to the list of all of the other ones, yeah, I that's why I don't understand purists, because the franchise has changed so much that I don't know if you can. I don't know if you could nail down what constitutes a whole Halloween movie other than, well, he has Michael in it. Everything else has changed so much in all of them. None of them are shot the same way as each other, or as the one before or the one after. But the first one is the one that I've gone back to the most. And another thing, so you guys mentioned Rob Zombie. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this. Because
Oh, I saw this, and I'm not surprised at all at who this cast here is. But Jeff Daniel Phillips seems like a very lazy choice for Herman Munster, because that's just like a buddy of his. That's not a guy who
Yeah, he was
resembles.
in 31
Uh,
and
he was in
uh
31 and maybe Lords of Chaos. And what was the last one he did?
Halloween 2. He was in with Dan Roebuck was in Halloween 2 as well with him. They're the two guys at the strip club, if you remember that.
Dan Roebuck is
Uh,
underrated. He's a good character actor. He's good in
Great.
River's Edge. He's the guy who killed the girl, Hans.
Oh
oh,
wow, I didn't even
I'm
remember that
looking
being him.
him up to see what he looks like without the
Jeff Daniel
makeup, but
Phillips isn't bad, but the dude needs to be used sparingly. I don't give a
right.
shit about the monsters, so I'm just kind of like
okay.
indifferent to this.
That was my when I was a kid. That was my
Yeah, you're the TV guy.
I like
yeah.
the
I used to
Munsters.
love that
I
shit.
would watch the Munsters. I think it would play right before school or something, on some network.
You'd think
TV
with how
land
much
for
of
it.
like a horror nut I am, I would be all for it and like grew up on it. And I don't know why I've been like so cynical about like outright goofy goth shit since I was like
Oh, I loved
five
it.
years old. Like,
Well,
uh,
that's why I loved it because of how goofy it was, and either that or the Adams Family. But the Adams Family gets like
yeah,
weirdly horny at times. It's kind of like I don't.
it
This is
didn't
not what
click
I
with
want
my
from
autism.
this
Yeah,
scene.
Adam's Family didn't do it
Yeah.
either. I was like, this is just the monsters, but horny.
This
Like,
seems like
that's the whole pitch.
I mean, I guess it's a kind of strange property to try to reboot now, but this is a big property, and it
Hmm.
seems like
Yeah.
an odd. It just seems odd that Rob Zombie's front loading it with his cast of regulars who are
With
not
his
really famous
friends
actors. Yeah.
who look
I
nothing like
honestly,
the actors.
I have a weird feeling though that he's gonna nail it, and like not being a fan of it and everything, I feel like I might end up liking this. I'm also one of the people that's kind of split down the middle. It's kind of like a non-answer, but a lot of people either really fucking hate his wife or like absolutely love her in movies. And I'm kind of indifferent. Like I think she's solid in some stuff and like serviceable, and then in other shit, it's just been like insane.
I don't
Uh,
mind her. You just kind of
Nice.
expect her at a certain point. I think she's gotten better at acting,
she
but
carries Lords of Salem. Like that movie's retarded.
the
Uh,
book of that is actually very good. The novel, which it's co-written by Rob Zombie, but I have a feeling some novelist really just took his
yeah,
script as a blueprint and did whatever they want because it's nothing like the movie. I
I
read
should
the book.
check
I
that
think it's
out.
by Brian Evanson, who's a horror novelist, and you read the book and it feels like a good '70s kind of Peter Straub, Stephen King, New England, creepy, witchy radio
Yeah,
station horror. And then the movie is nothing like that. The movie
yeah,
is
no.
really bad, and I didn't like it one bit.
My editor fucking hates it too because she's from Salem and she's like, they show like fucking three places in Salem and the whole movie looks like 90% of it doesn't take place in Salem at
Mm,
all. She's like,
mhm.
it's really hard to fuck up like a New England vibe, and that movie like barely has that in it, which is why it's so weird. But that's like for it being, I think, one of his worst movies, it's like one of her better performances. So it's really
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Well, it
Uh,
I'm
requires something different of her for
it's
once,
that
as
weird
opposed
like
to
horny priest moment that always makes me laugh. Uh
I
I don't
don't
know if you
remember.
guys
I have
remember
no
that.
recollection of watching
Yeah,
that
there's
movie.
just like
I saw
she's
it,
like
but I
in the church and the priest is just like suck my dick or something crazy like that.
oh
And
right,
she's
yeah,
just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what the fuck? And like I remember being like really drunk the first time I watched it, and it felt like
you
the
made it up.
movie was like reading lines out of my head. Like I was just making up insane shit and it was happening. I was like, oh, this movie's cursed.
That was the
Uh
I,
first movie of his that I think went direct to streaming. I remember it was a on demand the same day arrangement, the same day it was in theaters.
what year did that come out?
2013 or 2014, maybe 2012.
Okay, that would have been right after I left the theater officially. I got like it was like a war of attrition with like Avengers movies and shit. I think I left like late 2012.
Hmm.
And I worked like at a big chain theater. I think it's like a fucking Cinemark now, or yeah, I think it's a Cinemark now. But it was a giant chain theater with like 200 employees, and I started as like dickhead usher and got all the way up to like assistant manager, and we were just
a
always
real, a
wild
real
there.
small town tale of
Yeah.
perseverance and
Well,
success.
that's the weird thing is it is like small town. Like I'll get you guys to like come out here eventually, but it's like suburban Connecticut looks
You
like
actually live in a town
literally
from the Majestic.
yeah, well, it looks like anywhere in the world. Like parts of our town probably look like this fucking movie we've been talking about all night. Like it's at this movie is actually shot like near where my fucking dad lives randomly. I looked that up and
Hmm.
it's like they're down in the Carolinas, which was the last place I would have expected.
Oh yeah, well
Uh
they Danny McBride and David Gordon Green and Rough House, they film everything in North Carolina and South
Mm.
Carolina.
yeah, I
So
wasn't like that familiar with their stuff that they were like located out of there, and was really surprised. I was like, oh shit. It also doesn't really look like that.
no,
Or like at least what I've seen of down there.
I
So
think
I
they
don't
did
know
a
if
pretty good job of of masking it, making it look like uh, what the idea of Haddonfield would be. But
Yeah.
just to recap, so Hans, your favorite is 1978 Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I
Smoking the
did
frame and
go
all.
I did go see that in the theater back in like 2011 or 2012 maybe. I saw it with a bunch of kids and they were just not taking the movie seriously at all. They were laughing throughout it and it
Of
fucked
course.
with me where I'm like, yeah, this is a funny movie. This movie sucks.
So I
And
don't
then I
bring a bunch
watched
of
it on
kids to the movie, man.
yeah. I watched it on TV later. I was like, complete opposite reactions. It was strange how sitting with an audience can be so manipulative. You could just lose your mind. You could become,
Just,
it's like a brain worm telling you what to
just
think.
judgy children not understanding that, sometimes you can wait for things to happen. Sometimes the
Yes.
shot is a little bit slow. What's your, oh, no, never mind. I was going to ask you, what's your favorite Rough House production, but there's been so many that I don't know if you've seen all of them.
That's kind of hard to say. I mean, they probably produce a good chunk of stuff. I mean, I'd say at least a fifth of it is not very good. Like, what was
Well,
it?
you got Jonah Hill's The Sitter.
That's not as
Uh,
listen. That was almost like the end of Jonah Hill's career, and it got David Gordon Green in director jail. But that movie's not that bad.
That came out when I worked at the theater, and that I went in and saw that like I had no desire to see it. I went in and saw it because it had so many people walking out and asking for
Oh
their
wow.
money back. And we were like, what the fuck is wrong with this movie? And still to this day, I can't think of it other than there's a point where, like, what is it, like Method Man comes out and becomes uh basically black people become a prominent part of the story, and that was around the time where a lot of older folks would start walking out of the movie
Oh.
because they all of a sudden wouldn't understand anything going on in the movie. And it was the crowd of people that would like come in and buy tickets to random movies and just see whatever. Like we were a huge theater, so like old folks homes would come in on the weekends from
Ah,
all
yeah, yeah,
around
yeah.
and just unload like fucking 6-7 buses of old people, and they would just fill theaters and go see whatever the hell was out. We would have like a matinee showing of like It's a Wonderful Life like every Saturday, and then they for a second movie they would see like a current movie, and like shit like The Sitter would have tons of them walking out and they just like hang out in the lobby and get coffee and shit like that. It was very strange job, but that was one of those ones where we had tons of people who didn't like it for some reason. That was the only thing I could ever put together because it's like watch that movie is just kind of like
It's just a standard
uh
big comedy. That's
yeah,
really all it
like
was.
2010s like waning comedy when they were doing all of those and they were all sort of kind of falling off at the same time, like
Yeah.
Will Ferrell and all those guys. Like nobody was really hitting it big with anything. I think Campaign came out around the same time as that too.
Oof.
That was
That was the
another
end of
one
an
that
era.
yeah, that
When
was
Zach
another one that
Galifianakis
was
had a
like
career.
so torn with people and had people walking out. In the like 4 years I worked at that theater, the like most well-received movie we ever had was fucking Dread.
That is one I have
Right.
not seen. I've heard a lot of good things about.
It's
And I'm
like one of the best comic book movies, but it's like
Yeah.
so comic book and so shot on a digital camera.
Yeah.
You might enjoy it for just like how ridiculous it is, and it's pulling from all these other things and sort of trying to perfect those things, like bullet time and all this other shit.
so
uh
it's of
It's
the era is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's definitely
but
better than the Judge Dredd one with Stallone and Wesley
yeah,
Snipes, though.
No, it's
it's
not
of
Wesley
the
Snipes. That's another
era.
movie. It's Rob Schneider in that movie.
I'd say it's
Wesley
of the
Snipes isn't.
era, but it's
Oh no,
like the
Demolition Man.
pinnacle
Yeah,
of
you're
that
right.
era. I think that's one of the best action movies, and I think that one's biggest fault is it kind of steals a lot of its like plot beats from The Raid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've heard it doesn't even like take place in the future. It's just in South Africa in a projects building or something.
It's like, I mean, it's all set in the future, but it's like this is Mega City 1 and it kind of looks like South Africa, but it's
Yeah.
definitely the future. I'm pretty sure the show got canceled at this point, but they were supposed to be doing like a Netflix show for it, Mega City 1. And that was supposed to expand on that whole world, but it definitely had like fucking hover cars and all sorts of weird shit. It's just you only really see Judge Dredd driving around on his fucking whatever the fuck that bike was called. They're all called like Lawbreaker and all sorts of crazy shit. I'm not even like super familiar with that comic book. I just had like a weird soft spot for the Stallone movie growing up, and I worked at the theater when that one came out.
Isn't what is it? Richard, who did Color Out of Space?
Oh, Stanley.
Richard Stanley. Isn't his first movie Hard Drive technically in that universe because it belongs to the same comic?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's supposed to be. It's got some crazy like acronym name, but yeah, that's. I always thought at least that that's supposed to be the same robot from the Stallone Judge Dredd movie. That's like a big character in the comic books, like his brother Rico and all of that. There's someone probably way more familiar with Judge Dredd you could probably get on at some point, but that book has such a deep lore because it runs in like real time. Like Judge Dredd started so many decades back, I think like mid 80s, and he's like aging in real time with us. So like every year Judge Dredd gets a year older. At least that's how like the mainline series was. So I think Judge Dredd today is like in his 80s or 90s or something, and he's like on the Grand Council or some shit. There's like a linear narrative to the whole thing. It's fucking insane, but that's how 2000 AD did it for so long. And I think they branched out and done like spin-off stories and stuff that don't run in the timeline now, but that's why it was interesting to do Mega City 1, because they said it was going to be more kind of anthology based and like jumping around and just telling different stories, so you never really knew what the fuck you were going to get. And they didn't specify if it was going to jump around on the timeline or if it was going to jump around to different characters, but definitely an interesting one to check out.
Yeah,
Especially if you like smoking weed or something. It's kind of
Yeah.
like a big, they try to play it up like it's like a big drug movie. It's kind of a big element of it, and it just is like stoner visuals everywhere.
That's
It's kind of
very
strange
peculiar.
mash up with the ultra violence.
I've still got to get around to seeing it. I think it's on Netflix or something, so it's definitely on my list. And it sounds like that miniseries could have been interesting. But just to not avoid your question now, Hans, you asked what my favorite Rough House movie was, or
Just production in general.
well,
'Cause
obviously Eastbound and Down is the best
Okay.
one. But if we're gonna do a movie, the comedy, which I did not know was a Rough House film. Tim Heidecker's The Comedy, even though he's an insufferable man these days.
Yeah.
That's very camp. I can't believe they did Camp X-Ray, the Kristen Stewart G.I. Jane movie.
I
in
don't even know
Guantanamo
what the
Bay.
fuck that is.
Have you seen that Arizona movie?
I have. It's
2018?
not that good.
I need to like
okay.
pull up their IMDb.
There's
I'm not familiar
production
with it at
companies
all.
have IMDb listings that tell you all the movies in their filmography. Somebody fucked up and put in individual episodes of Eastbound and Down, so it looks like it's 70 titles, but it's actually only about 20 films.
What a dickhead.
So
That's
Hellraiser
amazing.
will be part of that.
Was
Prince
Foot
Avalanche
Fist
is
Way
good.
their first one?
Is what?
Was Foot Fist Way their first one?
I think
No,
that
that
was
wasn't
right
part of it.
before. I think that was them getting together, figuring it out, and then the production company came after. So that was
Okay,
actually
and then
Gary
they assembled it.
Sanchez.
Okay,
production.
I couldn't remember. I haven't seen that like in fucking years. I remember laughing
That's
my
maybe the
ass off when I
funniest.
watched it, but I was
Yeah.
gonna say if we were talking comedies, I remember that being the one I laughed the hardest at.
Definitely, that's still hilarious. To
TV
this day.
shows. I've only seen the first like 3 seasons of Eastbound and Down. I don't think I even knew a fourth one came, so I'll have to check that out. But
You have
I
to check the one
remember
where Stevie gets, when he gets
like-
a wife that looks like a little mini fridge. A
that whole
Mexican
thing's
woman.
due for a rewatch. in
Isn't that the
general,
guy
like-
who jumped in this movie?
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
that-
a very similar body shape. With
Penguin?
she's
Yeah.
just Mexican.
She's just a Mexican
And-
woman, though, and they show her nude in one of the seasons. My
Oh,
God.
derail it again real quick. How you guys feeling about the new Batman?
That's a good question. I feel kind of mixed about that trailer. I think I was more hyped on the first one. There's definitely things I like about this trailer and just the general vibe, but it also kind of has an air of A24 Batman, and I don't like that. It's a little too. There's something that's a little too. This is what we need right now for a Batman film, which I'm gonna have a hard time explaining that, but it just seems like, oh, we have a great cast, the music is great, the visuals are a certain way. I don't like that they show Batman in daylight. That bothers me. The whole the whole mask that Robert Pattinson's wearing is not my favorite. It does feel like what was it, White Knight, that comic book that came out recently, where
Yeah,
it's
it
a bit of
definitely
a
feels like Reeves was pulling from Sean Gordon Murphy's
mhm,
designs for sure.
where it's like a
The
leathery kind of
the
mask.
yeah,
And
the Gotham by Gaslight neck collar and everything.
yeah, I don't mind that necessarily, but I don't like the execution of it in this movie. It makes the nose look a
Yeah.
little funny or soft or
It's
something.
basically like a ballistic helmet shaped like a Batman cowl. Like I like it because I think they're going for more of like a utilitarian look where it's like this weird, it's like Bale's stuff, but one step closer to comic books again. Like every time they do one of these serious ones, they're like, we'll get a little bit closer to the source material, but we're still keeping it like grounded and spooky and dark. I
Yeah,
think this one's
I do
gonna
like.
suffer from trying to be Fincher, and that's where I
Yeah,
think the
yeah,
like
yeah.
A24 stuff comes in, where it's gonna be like intentionally up its own ass. Uh which is like just like a tone and vibe now in movies where you almost take yourself too seriously. And just the way the trailer looks, it looks like it's like all the like choice bits from the movie that don't really seem to be edited any differently than how they're going to actually play out in the movie. So
Right. That I mean
I'm
that's the
expecting
same
3
thing.
hours of that.
The same thing that I like about it, which is like, oh, you have the Riddler, and apparently the Riddler's a serial killer. Now,
Yeah, and I
I
like
like
how he
that.
looks.
I'm into it,
Yeah.
but there's also it's like, all right, so I kind of know how they're gonna do. Like they're gonna pull punches as far as this goes. You're not gonna see anything too gruesome. They're not. If they could go R with it, they're probably not
It's
gonna
gonna be
go R with it. It's gonna be
PG-13, yeah.
PG-13. You're gonna do the.
Venom violence,
I don't know about that.
where it's just off camera,
I mean,
just not showing it.
they did a test screening already, right? And it was like 3 hours, I think they said.
Yeah,
And like
that's the
people
running
were
time.
raving about it, but that could be, like the A24 crowds, like this is fucking art and comic book movies can be art argument is gonna spring up again, or
Fuck.
it's just like a fun fucking Batman movie. But I'm like, I like that it looks more like Batman being a detective. That's the Batman that I like. I've been
Yeah.
trolling on
Yeah.
Twitter like they've never done a real Batman, and I keep posting the fucking OG Batman with a fucking Colt 1911
Yeah,
when he was
purple
just a
gloves.
rip off of Shadow. I'm like, give us the Batman we deserve, where he's just fucking blowing heads off.
Uh, the director said that a lot of the look from it is based on Francesco Francavilla's comics. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's
Oh
one of my
yeah,
favorites because
Yes.
of how retro everything is.
yeah,
So I'm excited about that bit. At least visually, I know that I'm going to like it. I've liked every costume that they showed, even though Colin Farrell looks grotesque and doesn't really look like him. I kind of like that characterization of like kind of Tony Sopranoing him up with his
yeah.
accent and everything. So
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. I really like the Batmobile and how toned down and like simple it is. I don't know about the director's track record. I don't know if I can judge him by that, especially with like Joker that came out, right? Maybe he has that one good film.
There's rumors they're gonna try and bring Joaquin in for that.
Flash movie.
Is that
No,
right?
for the Batman potentially. There's a bunch of people that are talking now that they think if the Batman does good, there's going to be some sort of post credit sequence with Joaquin Phoenix coming in.
Oh,
I
no.
suspected that originally because I know that they had
No.
mentioned. Well, there seems to be some idea of a Joker in the movie because you
Yeah,
have like a Joker's style gang that he's beating the shit out of. But then again, it could be like the Red Triangle gang, where it's just a bunch of clowns, like people like dressing up
Well,
as
the We Are
clowns in
Batman
Gotham.
ones, right? Didn't they
there's
do that with the
there's
We Are Batman comics?
there's stuff that kind of alludes to like it might seed for like Court of Owls. And then that could also lead to like Endgame and all this other Batman stuff that like Scott Snyder is responsible for that's like fairly current. And that could play into like there's like almost like different versions of the Joker. It gets really fucking stupid in my opinion. But that could play into just getting a different actor to play him altogether if Phoenix didn't want to come back for it. But yeah, there's like half the crowd thinks that he, like pretty much everybody thinks Joker is going to show up and be like the surprise at some point because they're being weirdly open about like every facet of the movie. So everybody thinks there's going to be some sort of like post-credits scene, or they've been leaving some stuff out because they said the movie's like 3 hours long, but it feels like there's like parts missing to it.
Yeah,
Which is
there's
like that's
the
weird.
trio that they have in the film of the villains, the Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman. Everybody knows you got those three. Joker's the fourth one. That's how the 66 movie did it. Anytime you got those three, it's also always Joker, and it's a quartet. And that pops up in other forms of media that were vaguely associated with 66 and then a couple of other things. So it wouldn't surprise me. I think that probably would be the move. I mean, I know that they were working on Joker 2 and that script is still being written, but
Yeah.
where else could you really utilize that character in a way that would make sense? Like what is Joker 2 going to be? How could you I mean, I'm sure there's some story
Who
you can
fucking
play
knows
out,
anymore?
but Todd Phillips is not reliable when it comes to sequels, so you would probably just get a reiteration
Yeah.
in some
Yeah.
facet. Hans, you were going to say something.
But he does fit in this universe they're setting up, at least visually, with what we've seen,
Sure.
though. Because every well, even the Riddler's mask or whatever they've shown, it's very homemade. It's very like no money type of thing. Just a regular serial killer guy. So he would fit here. I don't know if I want them to start creating another universe though, because I'm
Right.
kind of bored with that shit. Like I'm kind of like I thought you guys were gonna do like character specific movies that are not really related with each other. So I like that much better
I
than
would love to see
trying to
live action Joker beat to death in the tunnel of love.
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that'd be great.
I would prefer to see other villains maybe get their origin story if we're gonna go there, or maybe I don't know, even maybe a Robin movie that's not just flamboyant and flowery and colorful like Batman and Robin. I would prefer that than them just trying to cram a bunch of random people that are not set up into a universe that just because this will probably be successful and the Joker was also successful. My one thing that has me a little bit worried about it is that I don't like the director. He's the one that did the Planet of the Apes movies that I didn't really care for. And he's coming straight from that. So I don't know how he's going to be able to manage a movie that's supposed to be toned down and not a blockbuster. So that has me a little bit worried, especially because usually blockbuster directors don't do great at handling non-huge gigantic explosions, gigantic things in a movie. But everything I've seen I've liked. I'm just done with superhero shit. I'm so sick of superhero shit that I'm kind of like, all right, well, it's gonna come out in March or whatever. Maybe I'll go see it, but I'm not really excited about anything that has to do with cape shit anymore. My friends send me shit all the time. There's like a Hawkeye series coming out, and Hawkeye was my favorite comic book character, and I'm just so sick with that shit that I don't care. I don't think I'm even
Nothing
gonna
but
watch it.
heartbreak.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm kind of superheroed out, and nothing that's coming out soon that they've announced at least seems exciting to me. You got Eternals coming out next weekend or whatever, so
Oh
that's
my
gonna be
God.
fucking great. So I don't know.
Batman's the only one that's like even remotely interesting to me. That's why I asked. And
Interesting.
it's the only one that looks remotely like it's trying to even be a movie at this point and
Yeah,
not just sell off of the like, hey, it's this guy. That's why I'm like, it'd be really fucking smart and kind of crazy for like this day and age for a big studio movie like that to have already done a test screening and to have just left out any scenes with the Joker in it, and like the movie
right.
still kind of makes sense because there was these reviews where nobody was trying to be spoilery, but it was like I remember reading one where a guy was like, it was kind of confusing and weird, even though it was 3 hours long. I really liked it overall, and the action's amazing. But they talked about it like it was missing something. And I was like, it makes it sound almost like the whole movie itself is some big riddle, like there's some added narrative layer. And that just might
Mm,
be me like overthinking because I'm like a nutcase writer. But
right.
I was like, that's how I'd do it if I was doing a big Riddler movie. There'd be some other fucking extra shell that's just like laced throughout the whole thing to make crazy idiots like me lose their fucking mind. Like this Batman
Watched
movie
it.
will give you schizophrenia. Like,
Make you watch it 11 times in 2 days, like Halloween
yeah,
Kills.
your girlfriend will leave you. Uh,
I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I have a suspicion. I mean, I think it's going to be big, but I feel like there is an opportunity, depending on how more the marketing goes, that this is not going to be all that big. This could be the point where the gas kind of runs out on Batman for a little bit.
it's
Um,
Mm,
happening on superhero movies all around.
yeah, I mean, well, Shang-Chi somehow made its money. It was like a hit. I can't believe that. I was like, Marvel's toast. Shang-Chi, Eternals, nobody's excited for these movies, but I think people just want something to do, and there's that loyalty where it's like, I've already seen 22 of these. I have to see the next one. I'm in too deep now, and I think the same thing will happen with Eternals, and it'll probably be a hit. So I don't know.
Uh,
But if
Disney's
they,
pretty good at bullshitting numbers, though.
that's true too.
I have a lot of friends that have worked there at all different levels. They're fucking wacky at moving money around and making everything appear profitable so they can get more people to invest in them and
sounds like
churn
That's
out
Netflix.
more of
interesting.
this bullshit.
I've heard rumors before. I think about like Thor
Like
2 or
if you
something where
read
they were
about the
buying
China
out
deal,
theaters. No, what are you referring to?
so China has I like we learned about it when we worked at the theater once you became a manager. And like I said, I haven't worked there since like 2012. It's been almost 10 years now, but back then it was like just getting pretty popular. And I think it was like 22 movies a year China was gonna buy. And it was this deal they made where China is like this movie deal. They're going to buy X amount of movies a year, and that's like the only like foreign to them movies, like foreign market movies they're going to get. America, wherever else. That's including
Right,
all
right,
sorts
right.
of countries they're importing from. I believe it was 22 when I left there. And that was all the studios and everything. So they would you and all these studios send them like a screener. They can see like the final cut of the movie, see what they like about it, and they send notes back. And these guys decide, oh, do we want to take the notes and cut these scenes out and stuff? You know, maybe there's a gay guy or something, whatever they don't
Yeah,
like in it.
Josh Gad kissing boys,
Person of
dancing with
color.
boys
Yeah.
on Beauty and the Beast. You
Yeah.
can't have that.
If
Just
it's
remember
like a
that.
black guy and a Spanish guy and they're holding hands, you're not seeing it in
Hell no.
China. Uh,
Did
but
Shang-Chi even? I heard that it couldn't, like they blocked it because the main actor said some negative things about
yeah,
China back in
I
like
don't
20
know if
years
it
ago.
made it over there. They probably did a bunch of like damage control to get it over there, so it might have opened over there now. But that's the whole thing, is it had this limited thing, and early on, Disney was lucky to get like maybe 2 or 3 movies in there. And now it's like pretty much all of the Marvel movies and everything. Disney's one of the big studios that now is just like will bend over backwards to do whatever cutting and editing they need to do, down to there's like rumors of like them shooting extra takes that are just like different takes that don't have characters in them and shit. So there's like essentially Chinese cuts of certain Disney movies, and it's like not a conspiracy theory, it's like a real thing that happens. And just over the years it's become more and more Disney or Marvel movies, whatever the fuck it is, being bought over there. Like China, for the most part, I don't think really gives a fuck about like our art house scene. You used to be able to like get this list, like just go to the theater, go in the back office, and you could look online at this list of like all the movies they bought that year. And it's not like they're buying A24 films and shit like that.
Yeah,
I'll
I'd love
tell
to
you
see
that.
China's version of Titan. That should be great.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet. I'm looking forward to that one, but
To
fucking
what you're talking about, the one that comes to mind is I think Iron Man 3, where if for the Chinese version they shot like 35 minutes of scenes with a specific Chinese actor who played a doctor in the American one, and in the American one he literally just shows up and is like, "Here, Mr. Stark, you
he's
need
like an
this," and then he
extra.
walks out. Yes, and that's it. But
Yeah.
he's like a big character. He's on the poster and everything on the Chinese cut of Iron Man 3.
Just in
So
every scene waving.
yeah.
They just
Yeah.
cut to him reacting to
But
things.
10 years ago, it was maybe a movie or two on that 22 list. And now it's like all of their movies. And that's why you see these articles of like, Disney scrambling to figure out how to get China on board for Shang-Chi and shit like that. And part of that too was there was already like rumors about it before it came out that he was like talking shit about China. There was rumors that they didn't want it just because it came across as like China love us kind of propaganda. Like,
Right. Well, that guy's got a big
they're not
mouth.
stupid people. Like, yeah,
He got in trouble on Reddit for doing what? He was mad that white guys were dating Asian girls, and he's got something else going on. And he
that
was saying,
pedo
"I
thread.
understand pedophiles. I'm an actor, but I understand.
Disney
I
knows
did
how to pick them,
research.
man.
It's a sexual preference, guys.
Yeah,
He was trying to get in the Hollywood crowd. That's the
yeah,
move.
man.
It worked.
I mean, it got him Shang-Chi, man. He didn't even have to wear a stupid fucking like mocap outfit to do it either.
That'll all go. That's being swept under the rug. No one's talking about that right now, and no one will be talking about that. Just like the Ezra Miller thing, because they got more movies planned.
Oh my god, that lesbian biker.
That trailer for Flash looks like absolute garbage.
Did
You
you
weren't
watch
into it?
the
You guys see
DC
it?
fandom?
Everything that had his face in it looked like shit. But I'm gonna be. I'm more excited for that than I am the Batman, because I want Michael Keaton's bat. I've wanted that since the age of 4, basically, and it's finally there. Now it could be
He's
like
not gonna be
Monkey's
him in
Paw.
the suit though. He's not gonna be
yeah.
in the suit at all. It's just gonna be
Listen.
him from behind.
He's just old as shit and can
Yeah.
barely walk.
It's look.
See-
It's gonna. There's that illusion that's gonna be spoiled, absolutely. But it still is what it's essentially the third Batman movie in that Tim Burton franchise. That's how it's really being marketed. The Flash is basically he
Yeah,
might
I
as well
hope-
just be Robin, you know?
Right. It'd be great if he was barely in it.
Yeah,
Yes,
just
yeah.
for one scene,
He
says
dies in the
Batman or
first
something.
act.
Yeah.
Apparently there's 2 of them in the movie. I don't know if you guys caught that, where
Yeah,
Ezra Miller
2
is
of him and a
wearing
chick.
a Batman suit. No, that's Supergirl. That
Oh, that's
gross
super.
little
Of course.
eggy
I'm sorry.
Puerto Rican chick is Supergirl.
How do you know more about this shit than me?
I've been keeping
Super-
tabs on
super
this Michael
juror.
Keaton.
It's like it's like my job and shit. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Oh,
that
yeah.
one that has plenty of opportunity to go bad and be a monkey's paw situation where it's like you really wanted this, but
DC is not good.
no,
They're
as it
fucking
currently
all over the
stands,
place.
I have no optimism for the future of DC Comics post Zack Snyder. Essentially,
When those rumors first got announced, I honestly thought like seeing Pattinson too, and like I like him in a lot of stuff. I'm not an idiot and saw him on things outside of Twilight. But when
He's
that
good in
first got
Twilight, though.
announced and there was rumors that Keaton was on board for a new DC movie, I thought they were doing like they were gonna just reveal when the movie came out that Pattinson was actually playing Terry and that Keaton was gonna come back as old Bruce Wayne, and we were gonna get like the setup for a Batman Beyond movie.
I think they're gonna
uh,
go in that direction, but with a girl. That's my prediction. What I've heard is
That'll
that
be
Michael
wacky.
Keaton's gonna train like a Batgirl or
On
something.
his face.
Yeah, that's
It's like
you
whenever
can-
they
you-
do shit like that, it's just like it's not gonna work. Stop trying to impress an audience that doesn't buy your shit. Enough.
They're just trying
Who
to
wants
infuse it.
that?
So you meet like the people who are going to show up with the people who aren't going to show up, and they're going to something. No, but people don't give a shit, and typically kills it, like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's the go-to example. But with Keaton, I remember back in 2014 or 2015, whenever they first announced Batman v Superman, which seemed a good period of time before it actually came out, and it did get delayed. I remember it was supposed to be an August release, and then it got pushed to March of, I think, 2016. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Um, there was a People were speculating who's going to be Batman. Well, Ryan Gosling. Everybody's saying, well, it could be Ryan Gosling. It could be some other guy. There was initially
What
talk
the
that
fuck?
Warner Brothers was considering doing Michael Keaton again. So this was, I think, right after Birdman or right around the time of Birdman, and he was kind of in the crosshairs. I do think between then and now, people have gotten even more nostalgic about Batman '89 and Batman Returns, and that pushed things over the edge. Where originally it was supposed to be Jeffrey Dean Morgan when Flash was supposed to come out in 2018 or 2019, and then they were just like, well, why don't we just do Michael Keaton again? And that's going to be the direction he's going to be. What the speculation has been is that he's going to be like a Nick Fury style character after the Flashpoint, erasing of Zack
Yeah.
Snyder's universe, and he's going to mentor some girl, and that's going to be the new series.
Jesus. I'm almost certain too that the glimpse of him they just showed on Fandom is just like a CGI shot where they just like matte painting
Yeah.
the cowl up over it really quick. Like it's so quick. And then you see like it looks like they got like the old car together and they just threw a curtain over it to cover up that it probably looks like shit and they need to build a whole new one. But that
Is
didn't
Bat-
even look that didn't look like real footage from a movie, and if it does, it does not look very good. It looks like test footage.
is Batman Beyond even a big enough property to?
Batman Beyond is fucking huge and
Okay.
plagued. It had a movie with Tarsum, right? Dude who did The Cell and bunch of other shit. What's his name? I'm pretty sure.
It was going to be directed by Baz Yokin, who did Remember the Titans, who was not a stylistic director at all.
Yeah,
and
what
he
the
knew
hell?
nothing about Batman Beyond. And this was going to be made around the same time Aronofsky was doing Batman Year One. But they pulled the plug on that film first, and then eventually Aronofsky couldn't get something in order for Batman Year One. Even though they had the script, they had the concept art, they were starting to like put everything in order. But then that just fell apart, and then they started talking to Christopher Nolan, and that really killed Batman Year One.
So is the Batman Beyond girl going to be wearing blackface like in the cartoon?
God, I hope so. There's supposed to be a Batgirl like that. I don't know if you ever saw the second Batgirl, Cassandra. She's a fat little Asian girl in Birds of Prey, the movie, and she's supposed to grow up to be Batgirl.
No, I didn't watch Birds of Prey, the movie.
Well, you're missing out. That was that. Listen, I'm a defender of the Birds of Prey movie. That it is not as bad as people have made it out to be.
Yeah.
And,
are you a defender of Birds of Prey, the series from the
I
early
watched
2000s?
Listen, in that time where there were no Batman movies, you would take whatever you could get. You watch fan films and tell yourself that's the fifth Batman movie. You look at fan art of David Boreanaz from Angel dressed up as Batman and go, yep, that's a real poster. This is what's coming out in 2002. When Birds of Prey dropped on the WB, I was thrilled, especially since you got Joker, even though he was out of focus in that first episode. And they got Mark Hamill to do the voice, and it was Roger Stone Street or somebody as the physical form of the Joker, some nobody who hasn't done anything since.
I need to see if I can find that again.
Yeah, it's on DVD. They released it on DVD maybe about 10 years ago. I haven't watched it since. Clayface is the villain in the season finale, and it's essentially just a dude with a little bit of muck on his face.
Yeah.
He's in Arkham. He plays like an Italian version of Hannibal Lecter.
With mud on his face.
He looks acne scarred. He just looks like Anthony
Hannibal
Cumia
Soprano. Oh man.
All right. Well, we're at the 2-hour mark now. We were gonna do. I think we gotta save that bonus show because it's getting very late.
Yeah, right.
So
I don't want to keep you guys up all night.
We'll cut this up into 2 parts maybe and release that over a week, and that'll be the show. So, Spencer, thank you for coming on Movies. and talking about the DC Comic Con release. What
Yeah.
Black Adam we didn't get into. What else was
Fandom,
there?
yeah.
DC Fandom where
Yeah,
they
you just clump it under comic bullshit.
I think last year they
Oh,
had
that
Matt Reeves, like a hologram of Matt Reeves talking to a hologram of
Yeah,
some reporter.
blowing Batman.
the only thing about the Black Adam thing that I thought was funny is that I can't believe that this image has not become a meme yet.
Oh, this movie
You
looks
know, with the
great.
Rock just standing on the green screen, and it looks like shit. Like I thought
See
this was
that?
gonna.
Black Adam's actually directed by Neil Breen.
Yes.
That's that when your black point doesn't match your background.
Looks good.
Even his outfit is light skinned.
What was the other movie? They did Black Adam, The Flash, The Batman, and
Yeah,
That's
good
it.
question.
forgetting one.
Uh,
Good fucking question. There's a bunch
Flash
of
season
animated
8.
stuff, wasn't there?
A bunch of what stuff?
Wasn't there some animated stuff too?
Well, yeah, they're planning a couple of different Batman shows. Did you see that Jeremiah Watkins got cast as the Joker for some animated series?
Bet you're excited about that.
Yeah.
I don't know what the whole thing is now, where they're just like, we got to diversify our portfolio, and there's going to be like a different person playing Joker all the time, and that they've just like thrown continuity completely out the window. With
I
all
think
the
it's just they
animated
need to
shit.
fill up HBO Max. That's really what it comes down to is shit. We need more stuff on HBO Max. We'll do Harley Quinn. That'll be the show for
Oh,
girls. We'll do like Muppet Baby Batman, and that'll be for little kids. And then we'll have the 13-year-old Batman. And then we'll do the sequel Batman animated series to the 1992 one. And that'll be for people our age.
I
None of
think we
these
were thinking
streaming
about
services.
was the Peacemaker series, the John
Oh,
Cena
well, that's the
series.
new Rough House production, isn't it, Hans? Because they got Jody Hill to direct half the episodes and write them.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Listen, I
And
like the Suicide Squad. I thought that John Cena's character in that movie was one of the highlights of it. I'm fine with this series. I might even watch it.
We'll see.
I hope I'm not gonna. They also announced Aquaman 2, which should be great for James Wan's career, who's
That's
doing
what it
great
was.
in Aquaman.
He's
Aquaman,
just had a
Malignant.
stellar record.
Yeah,
Malignant, classic film, classic
Yeah.
CSI
Fantastically
episode.
retarded.
Malignant. Well,
But that's another one. This year has been insane for horror, man. And didn't that make its money back too?
I believe it certainly did. So
Yeah.
what we're
that's
seeing
what
here is that is probably going to be the studios. It was very educational watching Seth Rogen appear on Corridor Crew, where they break down VFX and why they don't do miniature models or practical effects anymore. And the studio mentality is essentially if it's older, it's obsolete. We have to do with whatever's the newest thing. And that's how these budgets climb up into the $100 million range. That's why No Time to Die is nearly $1 billion to make. But as you're seeing, the real way to make movies right now and make your money back and have success is going to be doing these $10 million, $20 million mid-budget features, especially horror, I guess, that we're in that. I think we could go on the cusp of being in that type of era again if they listen to the money and being able to double, triple, quadruple that as opposed to putting all your money on one big project and hoping that pays off. So, I mean, we'll see. I think Halloween Kills being a big success at the box office and also being the movie that it is and having the writer and director that it has is a great thing for the longevity of film and the horror genre.
for sure.
I just hope the third one is more bonkers than this one. Like it has to go that way, right? I hope they don't go back to serious like that Star Wars.
No, I think that
trilogy
would
did.
be out of step, right? And they did these two back to back. I think it's already shot or mostly shot. So I have a feeling
Okay.
it's going to only amp things up and get wackier.
Yeah. I'm hoping
hope so.
tonally it kind of ditches all that like we need to kill them bullshit, and that we're just gonna see it like take action in full effect. Laurie's gonna be all like back on her feet. I have a feeling too, because they talked about it a while back. I think there's a time jump between Kills and Ends. I don't think Ends picks up right where Kills leaves off. I think it's going to be next year's Halloween. So I could obviously be wrong about that, but I think he might have even mentioned something on that newest Last Drive-In when David
Interesting.
Gordon Green was on with
I
Joe
didn't catch
Bob.
that. I heard that that turned out to
Uh,
be no Halloween movies, and people were very pissed off and disappointed. So
yeah,
then I never checked it out. But
zero Halloween movies, but the interview is interesting. It's definitely worth like scrubbing through and watching that.
that could be
Uh,
great. That could be like, you think about it this way, like when Donald Trump got elected, and then a bunch of people just had to live with Donald Trump as president. What if they just have to live with Michael Myers in the town? Michael Myers runs for governor. Michael Myers runs for mayor of Haddonfield, and they just got to live with him. They're just
well,
stuck with him for the year.
I said earlier that's why I think ends might pick up with that final scene where Tommy and everybody gets butchered, and then like re-show that, and then probably flash forward. Because I know they had mentioned that idea before, but I don't know if they like mentioned if they solidified that or not. But I think it's gonna flash forward to next Halloween and just basically reset the clock and go full tilt, but everybody's going to live in fear for a year knowing that Michael
He's
Myers
gonna come
killed
back.
Tommy and got away that night and he's not gone.
Yeah,
So
what are
that
they gonna do
obsession
without
is only
Tommy?
manifested deeper and everything. Uh, and I don't know if you guys are really like so into it. You have any real like predictions or anything for it? But the only thing I really had was I think Ben Tramer is going to show up, who's always just been a character that's been mentioned a bunch, and Hawkins mentions him in the hospital when Laurie's like talking about the night they almost like made out or whatever and became a thing. But he thought she was sweet for Ben Tramer. I always kind of thought he was going to be revealed as Karen's like real dad and Allison's grandfather,
Hmm.
and Laurie was just like divorced from him or whatever, but he's always been this weird character that's mentioned. And in one of the movies, he's like dressed up as Michael Myers trick or treating for Halloween and gets run over by a cop because the cop thinks he's
That's
Michael Myers.
it's hilarious
Uh,
scene, by the way, when Dr. Loomis is pointing his gun at the kid and the kid just gets run over,
yep.
and the police car crushes him against the truck and explodes. So
Yeah.
funny.
It's so off timed though, so you can see the
Yeah,
dummy like slowly lay down
Yeah,
on the
yeah.
hood of the car, and then the thing
yeah.
bursts into flames. Yeah, that's Ben Tramer. So if he's not like Laurie's ex-husband and Karen's father, he'll probably just get run over by a car, or he'll rip up for a scene and hit Michael Myers with a car and be like, what's up, and they'll be like, oh my god, Ben Tramer, because it'll just be another big like thing for the fans. But I don't know what else they could do at this point that they haven't already like made a nod to or anything like that. So I'm imagining this last one's just going to be like a slaughter fest, and it's either it's going to pick up right where it left off and we're about to see a Halloween that takes place completely during the daytime, which there was a bunch of talk about that, but none of that was confirmed either. So it's that, or they flash forward a year, do it all
If
again.
if if they handle it that way, wouldn't it just essentially be the purge? Because we've already got the idea of like the town ramping up and going nuts to take this one guy down. It's Blumhouse.
Yeah,
And if they know what the date is, then I mean maybe you wind up with like a Home Alone situation where every house is booby trapped or something, or the Myers house is specifically. He's probably going to be very easy to find, I would imagine, if they
yeah.
want to go looking for him between the two holidays. I don't know. I don't want to make any predictions regarding it because it'll probably be wildly off. I have a suspicion though it's not going to be what anybody expects it to be. That's all I really have a vibe of.
The feds are going to come in. It's Michael Myers versus the National Guard and the FBI.
Yeah, it'll be the opening of Jason Goes to Hell, and
Yeah.
that'll be that.
You think they would go like full supernatural like that at this point? He's just like
Yes,
throwing people 10 feet in the air and shit,
I don't doubt it at all. They
ripping
have to
guys in
have
half.
some direction to go in. It seems like they want to create a new terrain that hasn't been explored before and do something like legitimate, I guess, that's not just fan service necessarily. Because as much fan service that was found in this movie, it was never, well, let's recreate this moment. It
Right.
was always
Yeah,
just, this is part of this, and
yeah.
let's move on and do something completely new. So that's I think what they're probably going to wind up doing, but you never know. Maybe it'll just be a complete remake of Season of the Witch. Maybe they won't have Michael at
That'd be
all.
fucking hilarious.
It'll just be the Halloween Mass in Silver Shamrock, and you'll never know what happens. He just won. That's it.
They
That's
mashed
all.
the last like 5 sequels into one movie. It's like Season of Witch with a little bit of the Samhain cult. Like,
Yeah, you'll see Michael on the television set at the local bar, and
Yeah.
it'll be playing Halloween.
as the
2.
town's telling the story about Michael
Yeah, Tommy Doyle's
wearing
still
masks that
alive.
melt their heads.
It's the real Tommy Doyle. It'll
Yeah,
be great.
we're gonna find out in a year from now if that trippy De Palma scene was just a dream the whole time and none of that was actually real.
Oh,
I read it wrong the
God.
whole time.
Oh God, I hope not. I'll read the. I'm
Karen's
gonna read
still
that
alive,
script again.
Tommy's still
No,
alive.
keep him dead. No, bring Tommy back. Wasn't the Will Patton character killed in the 2018
Will
one? and they
Patton is like
retconned it?
straight up dead in that first movie,
thought
and they're
so.
like, he's still fine. Yeah, like he like pokes him so deep in the neck, like if like get into movie, but fuck man, the fucking the scalpel goes like halfway into your neck, and then the doctor like pulls it out all wiggling it and shit. Like you're fucking done for.
Yeah,
And then you laid there all night, like it's almost more believable that the doctor with the caved in skull would come back. Like
Sure. Yeah, I thought I could have sworn he was like very clearly killed in that movie by the
Yeah.
rogue doctor, but no, he's fine in the hospital having a conversation with Lori. He's not pale at all from losing all that blood either. He's just
yeah,
he's
bleeding out
perfectly
for
with it.
2 hours on the side of the road.
So that's what I want. I want Tommy Doyle brought back so he can get revenge and end Halloween.
Doesn't Tommy Doyle just get whacked in the head with the baseball? Yeah, that's the last.
No,
thing
he
we
gets
see.
stabbed in his heart
well, we
when
don't
he's,
know that's
he's
a
trying to
heart.
hit him with the bat, and then Michael
Yeah,
just
no,
stabs
but
him in his
he
heart.
stabs him, and then when Tommy hits the ground, the last shot you see is Michael swinging his bat down on him, old
Oh.
Huckleberry, and then it cuts to Karen going upstairs, and all the music cuts out.
Well, maybe it was actually the stomach and not the heart, Hans. Maybe it was
Yeah.
just got caught in the rib cage. He'll be fine.
He's
gotta-
gonna be Michael. There it is. He's not dumpy anymore, and Halloween ends. It's a year later. He's cut to fucking ready to party.
It would listen. I would not put it past them if it was like Michael winds up dying of natural causes somewhere in the house. They
He's
just find the
fucking
body
61
of
in this.
Michael in the house. He just passed away peacefully in his sleep.
Yeah, he's 60. He's supposed to be 61 in Halloween Kills. He's an old motherfucker.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to get into that. When that movie comes out, we'll have to have you back on, and we'll talk about that and unpack that, or maybe we'll do some other horror in the meantime, or DC, or we'll see what happens. But that has been a movie for this week. Movies, excuse me. This is 2 a.m. show, and I'm very sleepy now. Where can
again.
people find you on the internet, Spencer?
Death Curse on YouTube. I'm part of a huge group of comic creators on there that make all sorts of weird shit. We fuck around on there. We got our own little podcast that's sort of just like a comedy podcast that's completely removed from all of the comic book shit. And then I'm just a rooster_puncher on Twitter, I believe. I'm around over there, dicking around. I pop up from time to time. But yeah, thanks for having me on. Sorry, ranting over you guys so much, talking about all
No,
these fucking
That's perfect.
wacky horror movies.
That's great. We got
Thank you.
2 episodes out of that. We were going to do 2 episodes no matter what, but we wound up 2 episodes that are going to be completely Halloween themed. So
Also, thank you,
Perfect.
LowRes, for dressing like a pumpkin to come do a Halloween episode.
Yeah,
absolutely, I wanna
season
keep on
appropriate.
theme. You like the background here where we have little festive.
Yeah,
it's-
autumn.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway, Hans, your H word name on Twitter.
Yeah. That's it.
No Hansa Kindos on it. All right. Well,
Uh.
that's been movies for you. Look very tired, Hans. Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm just, I'm a person of the age, and it's midnight here, so
How much more
I'm
can we talk about Halloween?
Gotta
I
get
know.
my hot milk
It's
and
only
go to
midnight.
sleep.
Listen, it's 2 a.m. for Spencer and I. Okay.
Yeah.
You can tough
right.
it out. Anyway, but you get up early or something. Anyway, doesn't matter. That's been movies for this week. Thank you for listening.